Good evening, everybody. I'm calling this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the San Luis Independent School District. Today is January 27th, 2022. The time is 5:30 p.m. And let's see. Who would like? Do we have any children in the audience? No? Anybody under 18? Anybody under 21? Okay. Can we ask, can you lead us in the pledge? No? What about if your mother comes up with me? What if your mom comes up with me? Okay. Mom, why don't you stand and lead us? All right. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now the Texas flag.
On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
All right, thank you. Everybody can be seated. Okay. That takes us to the next agenda item. Sonia.
Yes.
Sonia is here though.
Roll call.
She has a new position, spending our money.
Mr. Coronado.
Here.
Mr. Hernandez.
Here.
Mrs. Mendoza. Here. Mr. Payan.
Here.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Mr. Rodriguez got caught by the train here behind his wife. I mean, he didn't get caught, he's waiting for the train.
Ms. Searles. Here. And Mrs. Chung. Present.
All right. Next agenda item, Sonia. It's gonna take a while. Stephanie.
The mission and vision statement.
All right, and Ms. Trout and Mr. Hernandez, would you like to read those reports?
Sure. Mr. Hernandez, I will read the mission statement and give it the next one.
San Luis ISD is the premier district we reach today to positively impact tomorrow.
San Luis ISD mission supports and embraces diversity in a multicultural society in our school community, thrives in safe, engaging, inclusive learning environment. We provide equitable opportunities to ensure our future-ready students and inspired to explore, learn, grow, and excel. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Trout and Mr. Hernandez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Item 1F, the trustee ethical guidelines.
Dr. Galaviz.
What I would like to do is pause the ethical guidelines for next, but I'd like to also do a moment of silence to officers in New York.
Yes.
Jason Rivera, he was 22 years old. My son is 21. Wilbert Mora, he's 27. Today was Officer Rivera's funeral. And I just think of the officers in New York and our officers throughout the country. And I think of the rising above. How do we rise above what's going on? How do we rise above from, and I'm wearing this flag because I know the flag that I serve and what it stands for. And there's a young man yesterday, he's not here, but he was talking about, standing up and the majority. And so I think these officers deserve a tribute from Canopio, and our hearts go off to his family, his mom, his dad, his family. Being only 22, again, my son's 21, so that's down. So if we just please stand.
Sure.
My Lord, we ask you for these officers and all of them that are guarding our country. We ask you to please protect them, and bless their families as well. Bless this world that unfortunately we're having hard times right now. And my Lord, I'm pretty sure that with your blessing upon us, upon the legislatures, and all the community, all the people in the world, one day will be peace. So we ask you, my Lord, all of these in the name of your Son. Amen.
Amen.
Item 2, open forum. Any person wishing to address the board during the period reserved for public comment at a board meeting must sign up to be heard in accordance with district policy DEC local. Each participant will be limited to 3 minutes to make comments to the board. The board is not permitted to discuss or act upon any issues that are not posted on the agenda for tonight's meeting. For further information on these policies, contact the superintendent's administrative assistant. Tonight we have 7 speakers.
All right, thank you, Stephanie. And for the record, Mr. Rodriguez has joined the meeting. It's 5:37. Okay, and our first speaker is Stephanie.
Miss Betty Sandolini?
All right, Ms. Sandolini. And everybody is aware of our district policy regarding open forum?
Yes.
All right. Welcome. And
Hi.
we just ask that everybody that's speaking tonight, just, we appreciate people coming to the board meeting to speak their mind and to tell us about what your concerns are. And so just please be respectful and the audience be respectful. That's all we ask. Thank you. You may proceed. Welcome.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Welcome.
And I want to address the Honorable Board of Trustees. And as the lady said, my name is Betty Stangolini, and I'm here as a citizen. I'm here as a person that loves this place. We love this city. And we want to address the book that you have in your libraries, and the book is Gender Queer. And I want to ask you to consider removing it because the content is not appropriate. There is enough pornography and a lot of stuff that our children, it's not that they are innocent, I'm not saying they are innocent, they know a lot of stuff, but there is no place in a school where children comes to learn chemistry and biology and all these subjects because we want them to be citizens that are going to be of power meaning advancing our nation in all, the science, technology, and all that. We do believe, because behind me there's a lot of moms, grandmoms, and parents. We don't think that they have to come to the school and get this kind of books. It has very pornographic. And it's good that there's no children, because if we put some of this in, they show oral sex. They will see it anyways in the media. In other means. But the school has to be really as a sanctuary of wisdom and fishing, technology, and all the good stuff that our children are going to become professionals and make a change in the nation. I really call you and ask you. You have the authority. I'm asking to your conscience, because it's not about one book, but it's about a generation and future generation. So please consider our petition. Remove this book from the bookstores. We oppose. And we don't know who is the committee who approved it. And if we would like to know who the committee is, I think it's not a secret. We're not trying to do any harm to them. But really, to make you understand, if you need like psychological evaluation and other opinions out of this committee, we're willing to do that. But please remove it for the good of our children and the future generation. That will be your conscience. Because 50 years from now, or 30 years, or 10 years, or next year, whatever consequences we have, you are going to be responsible. And I really don't want to be in your shoes for the decision that you take. We love you. I'm talking to respect. Please hear the petition of many parents, many grandparents, and it's a huge percentage that are behind my words to remove this book. Thank you.
Next speaker, Inez Quiroz.
Hello, my name is Inez Quiroz, and I'm coming also against the genderqueer book. I don't agree with it, and I wanted to read this law before I start speaking other things. I looked at just pornography laws, that's all I looked at. And it's legal, thus, it's legal in Texas for consenting adults, 18 or over, to possess, purchase, or view pornography, whether via the internet or other means, as long as such material depicts consenting adults who are over 18. Totally. If you look at the book, it is totally children. It's totally having sex one with another. Children, not adults. It's totally against the law. Right here. Google it. Find out for yourself. That's just one of them. The other one is the top 10 signs of pornography addiction. I'm from the House of Prayer, and what do? We get people that have been raped, sexually molested by their fathers, by their parents, or they're totally destroyed. They become totally destroyed. They can't sleep. They're in fear. These people are 40 and 50, 60 years old, men that have never told anybody, and they totally feel that they're filthy because somebody back there decided to have this hunger and use these children for sex. And I stand against it. We have it every week. We get people praying and people coming in, helping, seeking, because they're going crazy, because they're feeling. And if you go to that, and also I'm sure that they're also in the psychiatric wards. I don't believe that's just in us, but these are people that want to be healed. Other people have no idea what they're doing. They're taking medications and over there. But it destroys their lives. It destroys their families. And if you look on the 10 pornography addictions, one of them is you can't stop. You can't stop. You want more. These things are leading our children more and more. This is not education. This is destruction to our citizens, to our children, to our families. Destroying marriages. Destroying marriages, because once it says here, you lost interest in sex, in your family, in your spouse. How many people are going crazy because their husbands or their wives are addicted to somebody else on Instagram? We stand against it. We ask you, please stop. We need to save our children, save our families, save our citizens, save our country. I'm a kindergarten teacher. I was kindergarten teacher for 33 years. I saw everything you can think of. You cannot believe these 5-year-olds are coming out with things like this, and their movements and their sexual attempt, and because that's how they've seen it already exposed at 5 years old. And you say, what in the world? Where is it? And I just ask you for your vote. I ask you, I plead, save our country.
Thank you, ma'am.
Next speaker, Mr. Ray Baca.
Good evening, members of the school board. I appreciate you allowing me to speak again. I was here last month, and I made a suggestion, if you will, of something the school board could do to address the concerns of the parents. And being that I don't see it on the agenda for tonight, I guess it was not acted upon, so I'm here to repress that request. An observation is we live in a pretty great country, and this country is based on a scale of self-government. That is, we don't all report to the king in Washington. We elect our governors. But the essence of good governance is that the governors, which in this case is you, govern at the will of the people, which is them. And they govern not to represent themselves or yourselves, but rather they govern to represent the wishes of the governed. And I think that's where we're having a disconnect here. This issue is contentious. This issue last month got almost a little bit out of control. And we're not here for that. We're here to get you, the governors, to allow us, the governed, some say. And my request was very simple. Why do you not allow for people to apply and get appointed to a parent commission who has authority to review the reading material, and if they deem as parents that the material is not suitable for various grade level, then that material be removed. Students, when they become adults, can use whatever material they want. But in the meantime, it is our responsibility as parents to guide the material that falls in their hands. They, at the age of 10, 12, 13, even 16 and 17, do not have the judgment to know what's good for them. It is up to us as parents to guide them. Governments and governors cannot survive against the will of the people unless they do one of two things. Force, i.e. martial law, enforce your will on the people by force, or subterfuge. And by that I mean you keep the people ignorant. And the people, from their part, are apathetic to what the government is doing. Well, these people are no longer apathetic or ignorant.
That's right.
These people are now becoming awakened to what it is that they want to fight. And I suggest that before they go to the next step, which is more open demonstration and perhaps even unreasonable actions, that you listen to them and say, what would you like us to do? You are our bosses. What would you like us to do? And what they'd like you to do is listen to their concerns and allow them the flexibility to have some input. So thank you very much.
Next speaker, Noah Minus.
Muy buenas tardes a todos. Yo creo que voy a hablar bastante alto para no necesitar ponerme de pie para escuchar, para poner el micrófono. Tenemos un corto tiempo nada más, ¿verdad? Aquí está bien. Muchas gracias. Bueno, pues yo también estoy aquí para hablar en contra, sí, dígame.
¿Está usted dirigiéndose a la mesa directiva? ¿O
A la gente y a la mesa directiva.
Esto es para que usted nos dé a nosotros.
Bueno, vamos bien.
Okay.
Me dirigí primero a la gente porque quería informarles algo, pero ya que usted pide que me dirija a ustedes, pues primeramente quiero decirles mi nombre es Noah Maines. Estoy aquí porque estoy en contra de que este libro esté a las manos de los niños en la escuela. Quisiera que ahorita ustedes nos explicaran cuál es la razón que ustedes tienen, que creen ustedes que pueda ser beneficioso para los niños tener este contenido en la escuela. Porque ni siquiera, pueden ustedes ver, ni siquiera el contenido del libro trae una sexualidad entre hombre y mujer. Está enfocado en la homosexualidad. Y conste que no hay nada en contra del derecho a cada persona de expresar su sexualidad. Pero un niño a una edad corta todavía no sabe nada de sexualidad. No tiene la escuela por qué abrirle los ojos a algo que el niño todavía no está listo, ni siquiera él sabe lo que quiere. A un animal nadie le enseña, solito aprende. ¿Usted cree que un ser humano necesita que le enseñen esas imágenes? Espero que todos abran sus ojos. Ahora, y vean estas imágenes, todos los que están aquí. Si esta sala no está llena de más padres, es porque muchos padres no saben de este contenido en las escuelas. Cuando ustedes pensaron en este libro y ustedes creyeron que este libro iba a ser beneficioso para los niños, ¿por qué no mandaron una carta a cada padre de cada alumno enseñándole el contenido en esa carta, en las fotos? Aquí atrás, a mí me llegó este folleto donde habla de eso. Aquí atrás viene la historia que se habla en ese libro, de dos niños que están platicando de una fiesta a la que fueron, donde se drogaron, se emborracharon y terminaron teniendo relación sexual entre hombres. Y vuelvo a repetir, no quiero que tomen esto como que estoy siendo homofóbica o estoy en contra, no. Sino que no tenemos por qué ni enseñar en un libro que dos niños se emborracharon y terminaron teniendo relaciones sexuales entre niña y niño. No, esas cosas no tiene por qué estar leyendo un niño en un salón. Cuando los padres dejan a sus niños ir a la escuela es para que el niño crezca emocionalmente, como también también en sabiduría. No en su sexualidad, la sexualidad déjense a los padres. Cada padre en su hogar sabrá cómo enseñarle a su hijo sobre la sexualidad. No tienen ustedes por qué ser tan explícitos. Entonces esto es en contra de la niñez. Este es un libro aberrante. Este es un libro grosero. Este es un libro pornográfico. Si la policía sabe que yo tengo en mi casa pornografía infantil, en mi computadora o lo que sea, va a ir la autoridad a arrestarme. Más sin embargo, saben que en la escuela hay libros con pornografía contra las niñez, espero que hagan un libro. Muchas gracias por haberme escuchado. Y por último, quisiera que hubiera una Biblia en la biblioteca, porque sacamos la Biblia y sacamos a Dios para meter esta clase de libros. La Biblia cambia vidas.
Gracias, señora.
Este libro destruye vidas.
Next speaker, Miss Brianne Barnes.
All right, welcome, Ms. Barnes.
Thank you, Board. So we are here again for the 5th month in a row, talking about the same exact topic because it will not be put on an agenda. I have one question that I would like answered at some point as to why it's not being put on the agenda. Last meeting, I could tell that there were 2 board members who agreed with their community or who at least want this put on an agenda. Both of them talked about it. And in BE local of your own policy, it says that if 2 board members request for something to be put on the special agenda, it shall be placed on it. So why have we not had a special board meeting specifically for this topic? And if you really want to hear from your community, open it up so that everybody can be heard. We had a conversation months back, over 6 months ago, over CRT, and 29 speakers came out to speak that night to tell you that we were not for CRT being pushed inside of our schools. And that got tabled. And there was discussion of, well, we'll have a workshop about race because this really needs to be discussed. Where's the workshop? If race really needs to be discussed, why aren't we talking about it? And it's because you really don't want to hear from your community. Plain and simple. So I want you to know we're not going to let this go.
That's right.
Month after month, after month, after month, after month. It's already been 5. I hope you can see we're not going anywhere. It's new people every single month except for myself. I'm not going anywhere, and neither is the rest of your community. It's wrong and it needs to end. We're tired of being ignored. We are the people who put you in your seats. Please do your job that you are elected to do. Please build that trust back in the community that you guys have been saying. I don't know why we don't have any trust in the community. Seems kind of contradictory to me. So, Governor Abbott just passed a Parents' Bill of Rights. Speaking of contradictory to me. Parents don't need a Bill of Rights to be said what is spoken and taught to our children in public education. We are the determining factor of what is taught inside of our schools, and nothing should be taught inside of our schools other than what is in our Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. That is your curriculum that you should be followed. Nothing else. That's all I have. Thank you. Next speaker, Bernardo Borella.
Bernardo, thank you for listening. I want to ask the school board to consider increasing the deferred maintenance budget and also building multi-purpose buildings for elementary schools. If there's a lockdown, teachers and students have no shelter to protect themselves. Multi-purpose buildings strategically placed can just add another layer of safety and security. If there was an active shooter here in the room right now, the board has more protection hiding behind the wooden desk than students and teachers have getting caught outside during the lockdown. Elementary schools need art teachers also. Please consider a plan and add art teachers. I know some of our school board members are running for commissioner. Congratulations and good luck. But at the same time, I ask myself, if these good school board members have that kind of deal down, let the Canutillo community down, why would I vote them to be commissioner? For example, letting our school maintenance, deferred maintenance repairs into a price tag of $230 billion that we've been trying to get for 5 years. And not to mention, some school board members' values do not align with Canutillo community. And to finish, if a school board member runs for public office, they should step down from the school board before running for public office. My reason is if the school board member does not get elected for public office, then I think the school board member might have resentment towards the Canutillo community and not have the community's best interest in mind. And also the community, you have to take some responsibility. If you want change, you gotta come out and vote and bring 2 people with you. Thank you.
The last speaker is Jacqueline Martinez.
All right, Ms. Martinez, welcome. Where is Martinez? Here she is.
Good evening, distinguished Board of Trustees and Superintendent Dr. Pedro Galaviz. My name is Jacqueline Martinez, 12-year veteran teacher, first year in Canutillo ISD. I would like to preface my speech by saying that joining the Canutillo ISD community has truly been the best decision I have ever made. My experience has been wonderful because it is very rare that teachers ever find a school where they are valued and cared for by their principal. I feel so much gratitude to be where I am, and I will never take it for granted. Having said that, I am here today to address the overcrowding situation at my campus. Our school is currently at 114% capacity as we enter year 3 of the global pandemic, and failure to cap the number of students registering at and entering our school will further strain limited resources and human capital. But more importantly, it compromises the health and safety of students and school employees. The numbers at my facility speak for themselves. Between January 6th to January 11th, 6 positive cases. Between January 13th to January 18th, 14 positive cases. Between January 18th to January 24th, 19 positive cases. Week after week, the health and safety of students and school employees are being jeopardized, especially with lenient mitigation measures. Strongly encouraging masks does nothing to protect the community, and allowing more students to enter a school where there is literally no more space only exacerbates the problem. My colleagues and I are very fortunate to have a leader who is resourceful and a problem solver, but there is a limit to how much and how well we can realistically and continuously provide quality instruction. It would be very short-sighted to ignore the fact that the overflooding of students will inevitably and negatively impact the caliber of services offered by school employees. Nationwide, schools are battling with human capital shortages, and our district, our community, is not immune to this issue. If we don't act now while we still can to prevent this disaster from getting worse, harsh consequences await us in the future. We have an opportunity to be proactive instead of reactive. Let's be the premier district we claim to be and safeguard our most valuable resource, the teachers. I will close with a quote that a friend of mine wrote. The only reason that the entire education system is not crashing to the ground is because of the teachers and school staff, and it is not sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes the speakers.
All right. Dr. Galaviz, just for the record, I know there was a committee done. Did anybody file any opposition to the committee's findings? Is there a process in the district for that? Okay. All right.
Next item, special presentation.
Thank you.
Presentation of School Board Recognition Program. Ms. Liza Rodriguez.
Liza, how are you?
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Board President Coronado, members of the board, Dr. Galaviz, can you please join us in front of the dais?
All right, guys.
Across the state of Texas, local school districts celebrate School Board Recognition Month in January, and Canofio ISD wishes to thank our Board of Trustees for their year-round commitment, dedication, and willingness to serve as advocates for our children. As elected officials, board members are the voice of the Canofio community, serving first and foremost in the best interest of our students. Our district benefits from the tireless work and countless hours contributed by these local citizens who work without pay. Serving as a crucial link between the community and classroom, the Canofio ISD Board is responsible for an annual budget of $79 million, about 6,066 students, over 980 employees, and across 10 campuses. Under the board's leadership, Canofio ISD's overall accountability measures continue to climb. Accountability measures were put on hold for 2 years due to the pandemic. As we re-enter the standard accountability system, we remain a premier district. The district's 2021 taper report shows that we continue to stay competitive and are leading the region in all core subjects: English language arts, math, science, and social studies. We are far surpassing Region 19 and the state at all levels of success in Algebra 1 due to our innovative math programs and community partnerships. In addition to Algebra 1 performance, we continue to lead the region in biology, English 1, English 2, and U.S. history. We have a high graduation rate, and 94% of our graduates for 2020 are graduating at the distinguished level of achievement, meaning they are leaving our high schools with more than the minimum credits plus at least one endorsement. Our district financial services team continues to garner acclaim for their commitment to financial integrity and transparency. Recently, the district was awarded the Texas Association of School Business Officials recently awarded us the Award of Excellence in Financial Management that honors school districts, open enrollment charter schools, and education service centers that have implemented professional standards, best practices, and innovations in financial reporting and exemplify meaningful transparency and responsible accounting practices. This adds to the ongoing list of awards and accolades that assure our stakeholders we are safeguarding their interests. Our district is a A3 credit rating among the best rated school systems in the region, reflecting the district's solid local economy, fueling tax base, and steady operating performing and healthy reserves. Our board members provide vision and leadership in their roles while they shoulder critical responsibilities and often make difficult choices. Their ultimate goal is always focused on the future success of the children in Canofio, so that today's students are prepared to be productive citizens and the leaders of tomorrow. And before I introduce you to our Board of Trustees, I'd like principals that are in the room to please stand, as they're the ones that have, and their students will put everything behind you together.
President Coronado and Dr. Galavis, on behalf of not just us four beautiful ladies here, but all the principals in KUTO, admin, students, and staff, we'd like to thank you so much for all the hard work and for all the support that you give us and give our students. And we just thank you again for everything that you do to keep the district running and to support us in our jobs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ditto.
Thank you for all your work and your service. your hard work on your service. Thank you. Yes, thank you very much.
So let me just introduce you our current Canopy ISD Board of Trustees. Board President, Sergio Coronado. Vice President, Salvador Payan. Secretary, Patsy Mendoza. Trustee, Tristan Hernandez. Trustee Armando Rodriguez. Trustee Lori Searles. And Blanca Trout. Thank you so much, Board.
Thank you, Lance. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it from the bottom
Who
of
do
my
photo
heart.
principals before?
Do we fit in the picture?
Yeah. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Smile.
Just hold it right there. Oh. Ready?
Go ahead, Lori. Thank you.
You know what, Dr. Joe, I think we're going to Thank you so much for this gift. I really appreciate that.
All right, thank you, administration, for that presentation. Any board member want to make any comments? Ms. Earls?
You know, I'd like to say that I've been seated here the longest of anyone. And I've seen Canutillo. When I got here, we had 1,400 children in one elementary school. And I've seen us rise above despite politics, finances, a failing society. We're a good community, a good, decent community. And we will rise above, just like all these women said. And we will stand tall. And I believe the greatest gift that we can give this dark world, and it's getting darker all the time, is an adult who can think critically, discern the truth from lies, understand and practice virtue. Children are still our greatest natural resource. I think we can all agree on that. And we need to have them come of age as educated, morally sound citizens. And I want to thank each and every one of you for trusting me as your board trustee all these years. I am so humbled and so honored to be able to sit here and know that your children, the greatest gift any parent could have, is entrusted somehow to the decisions that I make. And I'm thankful wholeheartedly. Thank you for letting me serve.
All right, thank you, Ms. Earls.
Thank you. Community, this is your trustee, Blanca Trout. And I really want to thank you for all the trust that you deposit in me, for all the trust that you have, and you have given me a big responsibility to educate your children. To live in my job, I've been doing the best, and to support and guide our students. I am a mother too, and I have a daughter in the school district. I have the same feelings that you do, the same interests that you do, the same values that you do. So for that, believe me, I could see this film here is beautiful. I was thinking about This is my heart. I'm always going to keep a flame on and to do the best, and I promise, for our students. Thank you, parents, for helping us to guide and let us know when we're not doing a good job. Believe me, we could hear. All of us we could hear. But not everything is in our hands. But I'll do the best of my knowledge and my love to protect and do the best for our kids. Thank you very much. Superintendente me está pidiendo que dirija unas palabras en español para nuestra comunidad hispana. Y con mucho gusto lo voy a hacer. Yo soy hispana. Adquirí la nacionalidad americana. Pero no he olvidado mis valores. Y lo que les quiero decir, padres, gracias por haber puesto confianza en mí para educar a sus hijos. Es una gran responsabilidad, definitivamente, la que me han dado y la que yo he pedido. Yo soy madre también de este distrito escolar. Mi hija está aquí. Por lo tanto, tengo los mismos valores que ustedes tienen y los mismos dolores de corazón que ustedes tienen. Créanme que no todo está en mis manos, pero como esta flama que está aquí, así estará siempre mi corazón luchando por lo mejor que se pueda hacer con nuestros estudiantes, porque tengo los mismos valores que ustedes. Así que muchas gracias, padres, por poner esa confianza en mí, de dar la educación a sus hijos. Definitivamente estoy viendo su cartelón, claro, créame que yo hice lo que tenía que hacer. Y le agradezco. Muchas gracias por pelear por los intereses de sus hijos. Créame que lo que está en mis manos se podrá hacer y lo que no, no está en mí. Muchas gracias y Dios los bendiga a todos. Gracias.
All right, so I just want to thank administration for all these great, I guess, tokens of appreciation that y'all have brought us. We appreciate it. Really, the core of this district is our teachers and our administration that do everything for our students. And so, really, we're only here to guide the district in terms of its policies and where we want it to go, not how to do it. And so, we really appreciate, I've been sitting on this board for quite some time, and I grew up here. Most of us are products of this district. And my kids went to this district and graduated from here, so I really appreciate that. It is in my heart to serve this district and this community. And we've come a long, long way from situations from when I was in school. We didn't even have an actual, some of you don't, some of you don't know that we didn't even, the junior high and high school didn't have their own school. We had to share it, and we had to go, high school had to go in the morning, and back then it was junior high, had to go in the afternoon and split the day because we didn't have the facilities or the resources to provide those resources for our students. So we've come a long, long way, and we've come from, not being even, respected for our curriculum, for our product that we were producing in our children. And now to be rated the best back-to-back in this region, and over the pandemic to be able to have scored higher than this region and in the state, really gives me great appreciation for the job that our teachers have done. And we'll speak to that a little bit about the conference that we just did, and because we did have some opinions about from our students at this conference about how they feel and what we should be doing for them. And just a little eye opener on what some of these conferences do for us. But I really appreciate everything that administration has done in this community for supporting the district in all our endeavors. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Again, I'd also like to thank the community for putting their trust in me. And believe me, we worked very hard to be able address the issues that you bring to us. But one of the things that I'm very cognizant of is that we hire, again, and I've repeated this numerous times, we hire the best there is to administer the school district. Our job is to oversee the administration's policies and procedures, and they guide us in those policies and procedures. Do I have my own opinion? Yes. Do I want to express my own opinion? Obviously, but I can't. Not from up here. We hire a superintendent. We hire associate superintendents. We hire CPAs to guide us in our financial aspects. We hire superintendents, associate superintendents to guide us in our curriculum and where it's going. Obviously, we have an input in it. But I'm privileged, and I want to say thank you to our fellow board members. Are we all on the same page for everything? No. But that's what makes the United States of America the best country in the world. We respect each other. We respect everybody's opinion. Everybody's opinion. Believe me, I've heard about this issue from different people outside the community. From a family member. Do I want to impose my personal view on it? I can't. We hire people to direct us, guide us in the best possible manner that they can. And I want to thank the community also, because I know you place a lot of trust in us. But believe me, we try to do the best we can. It's not easy. It's not easy. We were talking about people being up here. I venture to say I'm the oldest, well, I am the oldest board member up here. I started school in this district 70 years ago. I'm 76. And Sergio's not kidding. I went to school in high school where the freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior class was in the gymnasium. Each one of us had a corner of the gymnasium to do our studies. What I see today, and I tell a lot of the kids that I see today, you don't know how lucky you are. You think we have problems with kids? You know, I'm not saying all the kids, but see some of these kids. I see them go to the service station in the morning over here by McDonald's. I almost cry when I see a young man loading up the truck full of lawnmowers to go push cutting grass during the day. I tell myself, I'm better than this. We have to do better than this. I've got a son and 2 daughters. They're professionals. They graduated from Canutillo. I've got granddaughters in school right now. I've got a great grandson in school. But believe me, people, I know people, you know, and I'm going to say it again. I've been in positions where people will tear you down no matter what. Because people don't agree with that one individual that's at the top representing you. They'll tear you down, they'll denigrate you, they'll cuss you out. But until the person gets up in that position to understand what that position entails, we try to do the best we can. And believe me, Canutillo is one of the best school districts in the country, in the region, in the city. Please understand where we're coming from. I don't want to be the one to say, well, you're ignoring me, you don't pay attention to me. I want to pay attention to each and every one of you. So thank you for your thoughts. Thank you for your support. And believe me, we have the best administration, bar none, in the region and possibly the state. They have a difficult job. The gentleman just addressed the issue that there's schools that are flooding. We tried to address that issue. Floors are rotten underneath the El Paso Community College high school, college. The floors are rotting under them, people. The roofs are caving in at the middle school. That's what we're trying to address. Reyes Elementary is way overcrowded. We're trying to address that issue. It's not that we are ignoring it, but there's limitations and obstacles to how we do things. Bear with us. We'll try to do the best we can, and thank you for your attention. Not that too much of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Plan. Anybody else? Okay, thank you, board, and thank you again, administration, for all the mementos of appreciation that y'all have bestowed on us. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And it looks, what do you think, guys? It looks pretty, very lively, right?
Yeah.
Almost like we're going on a trip. Anyways, everybody, all administration, and particularly the teachers here, we really, we want to make a focus on that, and I'll talk a little bit about that after, about the conference issue when that comes up. All right, Stephanie, that's Sonia, next agenda.
Item 4, public hearing. A public hearing will be held on January 27th, 2022 regarding the Texas Academic Performance Report, the TAPER. The public will be invited for public comment. Ms. Harrison?
All right.
Good evening, Board President Coronado, school board members, Dr. Galapis. Thank you so much for having me here to talk about our district annual report, and thank you for all you do for our school district and our students and our community. The 2021 district annual report is comprised primarily of the content of the Texas Academic Performance Report or the TAPER report. Section 1, Kenneteo's 2021 accountability status and accountability rating. For the 2021 year, school districts within Texas were not rated due to a declared state of disaster. Our 2021 special education discrimination status was needs assistance. We did do better than we had in 2020 when we were rated as needing substantial intervention. We continue to work on improving our STAR EOC performance scores and the locations where we provide services. For the 2021 school year, we did not receive any distinction designations as they were not issued by the state of Texas. Our second section is going to talk about our accreditation status. Again, this was not issued due to a declared state of disaster. As we move into section 3, we talk about STAR participation and STAR performance. As you may know, in spring of 2021, students and their parents were given the opportunity they could opt out of STAR testing. If a student was ill, if a student was quarantining, if parents were uneasy bringing their children into school, students did have the option to stay home. However, the requirement to continue with end-of-course assessments, the requirement to pass those 5 end-of-course assessments for high school graduation remained intact. As a district, we have 82% of our children come and participate in the STAR assessment. The region was 67%, so we did much, much better in participation than the region. Additionally, we had 0% of our students who were considered absent. And what that means is that any student that didn't come take the test, we were informed by their parents, we had documentation that they were either ill or they needed to stay home for health reasons. And so that's very, very important to note, because within the region, there was 3% of students who were absent, and that means they could never verify why the child did not come in for testing on that day. When we move into our scores, I know that the projection is very, very small, but you can see that we are continuing to lead the region in our passing rates, even in our meets grade level. We are very competitive when it comes to being compared to the state, often within about 5 percentage points of them. But if you look at our success rates, In English language arts, we had 66% of our students pass English language arts STAR assessments, whereas Region 19 was at 63% and the state of Texas was at 68%. We remain competitive. In math, science, social studies, again, we remained very, very competitive. We were above Region 19 in all areas of assessment when you look at the 3 through 8 STAR. Moving on to end of course. As you can see here, in Algebra 1, we far surpassed Region 19 and the state of Texas, much in part due to our innovative math programs, our accelerated learners who take Algebra 1 at middle school level. In the other 4 areas of EOC, we are very competitive. When we are compared to the state, we do fall short in mastering grade level, but we are above Region 19 in all areas of end of course assessments. We're doing very well. This is our district graduation profile. On the 2021 taper, we graduated district count of 450 students. Of those 450 students, 94% of them are graduating at the distinguished achievement level, which means they're graduating with 26 high school credits plus at least 1 endorsement. We continue to make strides in improving what we're doing with our children and how we're graduating them, ready to enter the world. Section 3, this goes over our district graduation rate, and these are our 4, 5, and 6-year longitudinal rates. This shows students who maybe did not finish with their cohort, they did not finish with the graduating class that they should have, but rather where they went on and if they finished later. Our 4-year longitudinal rate is 92.1%, our 5-year is 96.2%, and our 6-year is 95.5%. And we are higher than the region, and in some areas higher than the state in all of those ratings. Section 4 looks at what our students are doing once they leave our wonderful district. As you can see, this pie chart breaks into, within Texas, when students continue their education at either a 2-year or a 4-year university, 51% of our students are staying here in Texas. Some of them go to EPCC, but they are staying in a Texas school. We have 28% that are doing a 2-year college, and 22% are pursuing a 4-year college degree. You'll see that there's a big number that says not found. The 44% in blue that are not found, those are students that either leave the Texas school system, so even our students who attend NMSU, or they go to college or university outside of the state of Texas, and students who also go directly into the workforce. The state of Texas only tracks students when they enroll in a university that's here in Texas. And we have a small percentage of students who are considered non-trackable, and that's simply because the type of identification number they have is non-standard. So it makes it harder for us to track them as an education system once they leave us. Section 5 is the report on violent or criminal incidents on campuses. We had 1 incident during the 2020-2021 school year. Everything else, there were no incidents. The 1 incident was a felony controlled substance, and that was dealt with. Section 6, this covers our PEIMS financial reporting and looks at how we are spending our money and how we are spending money on each student. The per student expenditure is $11,149,000. That concludes the main presentation, but this presentation is now open for questions and public discussion.
All right. And before we do that, I will Before I ask the board for comments or questions, I will ask since this is a public hearing, I will ask the public if anybody has any comments on the report.
Sure, I wonder if there's teachers here, administration, thank you. Especially with the crime incidents, that's wonderful. Communities, a well community, we're a community, our parents are paying attention to their kids, so that's wonderful. Thank you everyone for the hard work, and let's keep it up, right? Keep improving, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I had a question about the part where you said that for last.
Can you come up to the podium that way we can get it on record, please?
Sorry.
You could hear Bernardo, but
I'm
I
sorry.
couldn't hear you.
First of all, that was a fantastic report. Thank you so much for that. My question was about the EOC, the requirement for graduation. I believe that last year HB 99 was able to, what's the word? Where they didn't need the standardized test in order to graduate. It was like a one-time thing through HB 99 has been passed. So I had a question about that.
There was an exemption for EOC passing in the year 2020. It was an exemption, but however, in 2021, students could opt out of taking the live STAR test, but that requirement to complete the assessment remained intact. So a lot of students retook the assessment either in the summer or in December.
But that opt-out was only up to 8th grade. At the high school EOC at the course exam level, that was not an option, which is why we had a very high, almost 98% of our kids at CHS came in, because we told them they had to, there was no waiver, and if they didn't, they would affect their graduation, because they have to pass these tests for graduation.
Yes, go ahead.
My next question is if the district is going to be transparent and open to the parents, to the public, to the community, that opting out is still an option. Obviously not for graduation purposes, but there are still many parents who want to opt out their child that are not aware that this is even an option. Teachers, there's many teachers that aren't aware that this is an option. Just yesterday, State Senator Menendez from San Antonio wrote a letter to Governor Abbott requesting that they cancel the STAR. And so I feel like, as an educator, we're in the exact same space that we were last year. And so because I'm new to the district, I just wanted to know, are we going to be transparent with parents about that option?
And we will always remain transparent with parents. We always are. I want everybody to know that there's, at this point, the governor and the commissioner have not exempted any accountability. As far as everybody knows, everybody tests. There is nothing saying that, due to COVID, there is not a COVID exemption, anything like that we have seen or has been announced by the commissioner. If something is to change, they'll let us know, but at this time, students will test.
All right, thank you.
Ma'am? What's your name?
My name is Jacqueline Martinez.
Jefferson. You're a teacher.
Yes, sir.
Encourage your peers to come and speak up and ask questions like that.
I did.
You know.
I did, but nobody came.
You know what's aggravating?
Yes, sir.
We hear 1 or 2 or 3 people like you that come up and ask those questions. Very good questions.
Thank you.
And the public needs to hear those questions.
Yes, sir.
You know, encourage them to come and speak up about whatever they feel they need to address with us.
Yes, sir.
Please. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else from the public? Comments? All right, then,
Please, folks, come on. Ask a question about this issue here. You're here now.
this part.
So it's not really a question. I wanted to add something to what you just said, Mr. Brown. I think one thing that we can do to encourage that or improve that is actually post and let parents and teachers know when the board meetings are happening. We have calendars that go out at all the campuses, and board meetings are never included on those calendars. So unless parents are part of the Facebook group or they see the post or something along those lines, most of them don't know when you are. So that's just a suggestion that we can do campus to campus to really get people more involved.
That's a good idea.
I do have a suggestion.
Ms. Trout,
Maybe we can put it in those, signs, the electronic signs in every campus, whenever we're gonna have a one.
that's also a good idea.
I see some very, very elaborate electronic signs over there at, Damian Elementary, we need to.
Yeah, we could have it, you know, and all those, we have it almost in all the campuses, so we could post the board meetings over.
Right.
Thank you.
In continuation with that, parent liaisons. Back in the day, we used to get notices in writing with each student. So parent liaisons can get more involved and set out notices to keep the community informed and the parents. Parent liaisons, reach out.
All right. You know, there's a committee that meets, I don't know how often, Dr. Galaviz, the SAD committee. How often do they meet? Once a month, District Advisory Committee. There's parents, there's teachers, there's participate. Have an input, you can learn a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else, board? Mr. Rodriguez.
I just wanted to thank both Dr. Galaviz and all the administration as we continue to see great improvements within our educational outcomes. We really appreciate what you all do on the ground and the work that's been going on. As you can see, we are leading in the region and the state, and so we really appreciate what you all do on a day-to-day basis. On a side note too, there's a possibility maybe what we can do is request email addresses and maybe have somewhere where you can sign up. I don't know how the system works. If it is board books, maybe I could bring it up at TASB, but what we should do is create a listserv. I believe back in the day, Ms. Mendoza used to actually snail mail any of the agendas to people that requested it, so maybe we could create a listserv. And I'm going to discuss one of the issues on how we could incorporate that connection between back and parents. So.
All right, thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair, I do have
Ms. Trout.
questions regarding to the presentation.
Sure.
And this question is for Mr. Chambers. Mr. Chambers. Thank you. In your presentation in section number 1, we talked about the 2021 special education termination status. And it says that it's the improvement needed in STAR 3 to 8. My question is, what are we doing in order to close this gap, sir? And what kind of need?
We're doing two things. We're working with DEA on a strategic support plan, and we've narrowed it down to two things to be very specific on attacking student performance. What we're doing is we're attacking reading at every level. We're providing reading programs, training, and so on. We have two lead teachers that are working very hard providing data and support for teachers with successful reading programs. The data has been very promising. We have found that schools that are using those reading programs, it's called SPIRE and iSpire, one's online, one's hands-on, and the teachers use it according to what their student needs are. The high school and the middle schools are using a program called Reading Plus, which is designed to help students with disabilities of all levels, and we're very pleased. Terry can tell you that that's a great program. She's really after her students to do that even at the high school. The target is reading. When the teachers use it with fidelity, we have good scores. In fact, some of the special education students are doing better than gen ed students on school. So that's something we're very proud of. It's going to be a hard road. Our people are working, they're grinding it out. We're going to see. I think we're going to see in the next 8 weeks people really pushing hard, working with students. And I think we're going to see some improvements, more improvements than we already got. A couple of years ago, we were at a level 4, which is not acceptable for us. Our teachers and our staff worked very hard to bring that score up to a 2. The best one's a 0 and a 1 and a 2, so we've made some very good progress. The other thing we're looking at is appropriately replacing our special education students. I will say that, a while back we talked about
Tech is getting in trouble with the 8% quota. They had a ceiling on the quota. Some of the ratings that we get, I feel are quota. What we're going to do and what we promise to do with every one of our students is put them in the right spot, whether the state has a quota or not. And so we're doing that, and we get for that. So we'll continue to work on it. We'll work on personnel. But those are the two things we're working on in that strategic support plan.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all you do for this department and this community, your special education team. Yes, Dr. Canalis?
No, from my understanding, this
Thank you,
was
Mr. Chambers.
labeled pre-COVID,
Yes.
okay? So, so it have not been rated, we need a big Stetson audit, especially if this rating stays with you till accountability. That's why it stays, this is pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah, but we know we need,
Yeah,
yeah, we know we need it.
we'll talk about that later. Yes,
Our
that's
teachers and Mr. Carroll.
I was just gonna speak to that.
Dr. Carney.
So, Dr. Galavis mentioned the Stetson report that we did. So we did an extensive review of our special education programs. And one of the things that was revealed was that we need to improve our inclusion co-teaching model. So we're moving toward that by hiring additional teachers, particularly at this secondary level. We find that at secondary, it is more challenging for students in special education because of how they might feel about their peers and things like that. So we feel that improving our inclusion model will help us to provide the additional support that they need. So we're looking forward to improving that inclusion and co-teach by providing robust professional development in that area as well. As Dr. Galavis was also saying, pre-COVID, we did have that rating, that not acceptable rating in the area of special education. Then when we were not rated in 2020, that rating kind of carried over. Even though we did see improvements like Mr. Chambers did indicate, we went down from a 4 to a 2. That's significant improvement, but it's because of the hard work of the teachers. We do whatever it takes to make sure that we meet the needs of our students. So I just want to thank Mr. Chambers publicly for the hard work that he's done with his team. We've had challenges with our special education teachers and therapists, but they persevered, so we really do appreciate them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chambers. One question, Mr. Coronado.
Yes.
The one is in section 3, TAPR. We're talking about at-risk graduates. We have 174 at-risk graduates. Is this including both high schools or only Carluquio High School?
This is the whole district. So
the whole district,
district-wise, yes.
Okay, so we have 174 students, and what are we doing in remediation in order to help the students?
So when we see the coding of at-risk in this focus, those students meet criteria for being at risk for, I believe it's 14 different categories. Okay. And so for some of them, they may be at risk because they are English learners. For others, they may be at risk because at some point in their educational career, they did not pass a STAR test, and then when they retested a STAR test, they didn't pass at 110% success. So there's lots of different reasons why they're being coded at risk or why they're identified at risk. At the high school, at Canutillo High School, they do have an intervention specialist who works with those students to ensure that they're making progress and that they are meeting their graduation goals, making sure that they're, passing their district assessments, earning their credits. And then if there's something going on that they can't meet that criteria, then additional support is given to them. At risk also includes our students who may be parents or may be pregnant. And so those children receive services through Dr. Reyes's department, and they receive additional supports and additional services to support them in their area of need. And so it really is built in by a lot of different things. So it's hardly just, but I think for every group that we have a different approach to how we support those students to ensure that they make that graduation.
So all the needs are covered and they end up graduating. Perfect, thank you so much. And the last question, maybe for you too, Ms. Jessica. You talked to us about the pie chart and the graduation.
My question, in this pie chart, of course, again, includes the both high schools. In this pie chart, is that include, or is it possible to include the students, do they join the armed forces? Because I don't see it.
At this time right now, Texas is on hold gathering military data, and that is something that TEA is working on with the military forces that be, simply because we're not able to get that information from them. And so this information that's in this pie chart, this is gathered by the Texas Higher Coordinating Education Board. So it's data that they collect. This is not data we collect.
Or that we collect.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely, maybe we're gonna have some students that end up graduating and
Yes.
join the special, the
The
armed forces.
Mm-hmm. The armed forces.
Special.
Yes.
Armed forces.
As we kind of move back into our traditional accountability system, I know that they're still trying to obtain that information, but there's just some difficulties right now. So
But it will come to us sometime. Thank you, Ms. Jessica. Thank you to the whole school district, teachers and professionals and staff to give us this information. Thank you so much for all you do. Thank you to each one of you. Thank you, Mr. Sherman.
Thank you, Ms. Crowe.
I do have a question.
All right, Ms. Searles.
Dr. Carney, through the balloons, I heard you say that we'd be looking at hiring more special ed teachers. Well, paraprofessionals are so very important. Will they come along?
You want to talk to the SR?
Maybe some extra hires as well?
Yes, Ms. Searles, one of the things that we're considering doing is utilizing some of the money that we had with ESSER 3 to put toward our special education program through hiring additional teachers and paraprofessionals. Paraprofessionals. We have had some real challenges with hiring, even though when Ms. Rocha presented a few months ago, we talked about some different hires that we wanted to make based on the ESSER 3 funding. We've had real difficulty finding individuals for a lot of the positions, so we've decided to go ahead and reallocate that funding toward the special education department to ensure that we're able to achieve at even higher levels in that department. So that's what our plan is.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Dr. Delavis, is there a problem?
No, in the video.
Oh, okay.
any other questions about the paper report?
Anyone else? Mr. Player?
Yes, just one more question, related to the at-risk students. Is there a formal program process where parents are engaged if those kids are trending at risk?
Yes, depending on how the student is identified to be at risk, there are certain components that require parent engagement. Whether it's, there's often meetings that they must attend and events, but it's kind of a whole child approach where the parents are involved, teachers are involved, a lot of school staff are involved, and they're the ones that are ensuring those needs are being met.
To what extent is the counseling department engaged in that?
They are usually the people scheduling the meetings.
They have track of as well for graduation and the coding and all of those things. So it's a group effort, at least at the high school.
Yes, go ahead.
Good evening. And I'm up here, thank you.
Good.
It's a selfless job. You're not paid. It's all strictly volunteer. So I know it's a difficult job, but thank you for everything you do. So for at-risk students, as Ms. Harrison was talking about the different criteria that we have for at-risk, when you talk about homeless, we have students that are unaccompanied. And that means that there is not a parent in the home or the place of residence where this child is. So if we have a person of responsibility or a legal guardian or a power of attorney, those people become part of our student study team meetings. We create plans for them. We have enrollment conferences, which is now a requirement from the state for homeless. There's different layouts for each criteria. Pregnancy-related services, again, if a student
tells us they are either sexually active, or they think they're pregnant, or they are pregnant, or they're a teen parent, it is our responsibility to make sure that the child connects with the parent and that information is given, and then we work together to create a plan. Counselors are involved constantly with this. It just depends on what it is. If we have a student that has been incarcerated, or a family member, a parent has been incarcerated sometime during their life, we also provide support. And counselors are always part of that to either identify or to assist. So working with student support, working with counselors, working with social workers, working with principals, working with SPED department, everybody is always included. So there are many, many layers that we add. Our job is to eliminate any barrier that gets in the way of a child or student not graduating. That is our job, and so that's what we work towards.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that we're doing everything possible to make sure every child has the support and encouragement to be able to get through.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Anybody else? You know what, I just want to thank, again, our teachers and administration, man, that this report is just glowing for our district that we were able to do this during the pandemic. Everybody fell behind, but we didn't fall as behind as everybody else. And so I attribute that to our teachers that kept on with our students, making sure they were calling to make sure that we're logged on. And it sure made it easier that they had. Everybody was on the same page with the same type of tablet or laptop and on the same system. It made it a lot easier, I'm sure, for our teachers, make sure that they can get these kids back on. And as Dr. Rico, in his presentation, had that this particular system that the board opted for, and without us really having paid attention to that, had an extra benefit that this system, there was a word within the context of the reading that would be highlighted, and kids would click on it and it would actually give them the definition of it without us knowing that this was included. And so not only did the students were able to be on the same page, but it had an added benefit of giving them additional instruction to make sure that they understood the context of some of these words that they may not have been familiar with. So, thank you all very, very much. And I know it was a hard work to go through, but those who deserve those thank you guys, and we really appreciate it. Further on, right? Well, this first.
I have a really sidebar comment on what a wonderful job our parents, students, teachers, faculty, everyone has done. I'm looking across here over right by Mr. Tristan, and I see something that in this day and age is phenomenal, and I want to thank everyone. The children from our middle school STEAM Academy can all write in cursive writing. I see our names written as such, and that is an amazing upgrade from the whole rest of the world, it seems. So thank you very much. I'm nothing to shine. It's really nice. Thank you.
Yeah, doctors and lawyers learn a lesson from it.
Okay, if there's no other questions, thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to present this information to you tonight. I look forward to next year's TAPER board report. The complete TAPER report and each campus report is posted on our website, and they are accessible to the public and of course to board members as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chair, I'd like to thank our associates, Ms. Rocha, and the CNI, Dr. Kirby, and also
you guys did a great job.
But also I'd like to thank Ms. Sandra, Darío, Everly Childers, Charlie, Yera, Stacy, Natalie, and Elena, our curriculum coordinators that go out every day to the field to serve these teachers. So thank you, Ms. Sandra. I know you're a new grandma. Happy grandma.
All right, that takes care of the public hearing.
Dr. Reyes, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Shanks.
We now go on to item number 5. Stephanie.
Item 5, Board of Trustee business. 5A, Lone Star Governance. Discussion and possible action to adopt one or more theories of action to drive overall strategic direction. Dr. Kearney?
And thank you, Jessica, for providing the perfect segue, because the reason why we're so successful is because we set goals for the work that we do. Good evening, Board President Coronado, board members, and Dr. Galaviz. I want to thank you for
One
this.
second, Dr. Curry. Board, what I handed you was the quarterly progress tracker that we all agreed to on October 21st, 2021. So this month, we're going to go over vision and goals 1, vision and goals 2, and then vision and goals 3, let's talk about activity and action.
Okay.
So that's it. Just wanted to lecture one. Go ahead, Dr.
All right, so thank you for this opportunity to present to you tonight on our LSG and the progress that we're making toward our student success indicators. You've seen this slide before, we've shared it with you. Student outcomes don't change until adult behaviors change, starting with me. In the Education Trust, Karen Chenoweth discusses 4 requisites that must be in place to steadily improve student outcomes. First, we must believe that all children can learn. And I know that what's been demonstrated with our paper shows that we all truly believe that. We must believe that all children can learn at high levels, and we must be willing to take responsibility for helping all of them. And that's exactly what we're doing each and every day. We must be willing to step back and objectively assess results and student progress, and that's what we're doing tonight. Finally, we must build a culture of trust, knowing that we use data to provide what teachers and students need, rather than subjecting them to criticism and shame. This is how we build a positive dynamic that will have net gains in student learning. This slide depicts how synergy and teamwork in school boards results in improved student outcomes as long as essential processes and systems are in place, such as vision, goal setting, values, identifying those non-negotiables, having accountability measures in place, and monitoring progress through regular checks. All of these components together result in improvements in student outcomes, just as we saw with our TAPER report. So House Bill 3 requires that school boards adopt detailed plans developed by their management teams to achieve goals in 2 key areas. That includes early childhood, in particular mathematics and literacy, and also college and career readiness. Additionally, it requires the assigning of district-level administrators, such as yours truly, to oversee the coordination of each plan, to set specific quantifiable annual goals for 5 years at each campus and the district. I want to add here that we have first developed the district plan, and now we're working on those campus 5-year goal plans as well. House Bill 3 requires that we have an early childhood plan, which measures student progress, particularly in 3rd grade, reading and math STAR. It also requires that we provide targeted professional development specifically for those campuses not meeting the goals of our plan. And I do want to thank the board at this time for just all of the support that you provide to us continually, but especially during this pandemic. And I'm thinking about the way you supported us in ensuring that all of our teachers and administrators received the Reading Academies training. And that was a heavy lift, but all of our teachers at K through 3, our principals, our assistant principals, and instructional coaches have done the reading academies. And that's above and beyond what the state has asked us to do. So I appreciate your support in that. House Bill 3 also requires that we consider the unique needs of our special education and our bilingual students, and requires annual targets specifically for these groups of students. It also requires that we have a college and career readiness plan with annual goals and targets for student growth in each group, especially under the Closing the Gaps domain. So these are the possible subgroups that we should monitor if they meet the minimum size criteria of greater than or equal to 25. This includes various ethnic groups, includes the economically disadvantaged students, our SPED students, and our ELs, or English learners. So our former SPED students, that's one of the criteria as well. These are the students that in any of the preceding 3 years, they were reported in Teams as receiving SPED services. But in the current year, they are no longer receiving these services. So I just wanted to define that for you. Our continuously enrolled students are students enrolled in our district both in the current year and in the last 3 consecutive years. These are our STAR performance level indicators. You're probably familiar with these: did not meet, approaches, meets, and masters. While students who are at the approaches level are likely to achieve in the next grade or course with interventions, students who achieve at the meets level will have an even higher likelihood of achieving success and are considered college ready. For this reason, although we celebrate students achieving at least the approaches level, we have specifically set our goals to ensure that more of our students will be included in the meets indicator. And so one of the ways you can look at it is we ran a training through Lead Forward, and he said that approaches is like a C, meets is like a B, and masters is like receiving an A. So that's one way to think about it. So these are our 3rd grade reading goals. I know it's difficult to see, but we have set goals for all of our students, even down to the subpopulation level. So when we provide you with our quarterly reports, we are going to be drilling down to these levels as well. I do want to let you know that even prior to the pandemic, our 3rd grade students were outperforming the region and state. I think Jessica already mentioned that. And even during the pandemic, we continue to outperform our peers. So kudos to our teachers once again. I know I keep saying that. I had a slide on the historical reading data, but somehow it's missing for some reason. But anyway, here's the historical math data. As you can see, prior to the pandemic, we were steadily making gains. But then after the pandemic, we saw a dramatic decrease. This is one area where our students have really struggled because they were at home. It was difficult. They didn't have the manipulatives or the teacher right there to answer those questions. But once again, outperformed the state and the region, even in the area of math. One of the things I want to point out is the fact that we have been innovative in the area of mathematics in our district. We are an MIZ District Math Innovation Zone district, which is great, and we're also working hard through our advanced mathematics program. So again, with our 3rd grade mathematics goals, we are drilling down into all of the various sub-pops to ensure that we close gaps at all levels for mathematics for the various subpopulations that I'm showing here. It's hard to see, I know, but there's about 9 different subpopulations that meet the minimum size requirement of having greater than or equal to 25 students, and we'll be monitoring these students to ensure that they're making gains. So we might end up doing some adjustments depending on how students actually perform, because we are waiting to receive, of course, the STAR data for the year 2022. So we might find that we're already exceeding the goals that we have set. We hope that that's what we find. But for now, these are the goals that we have set, and we can adjust as needed. We are also setting college career readiness goals. Again, prior to the pandemic, we were making those gains, and then we saw a dramatic dip. But we're working really hard to ensure that more of our students are taking SAT, ACT, receiving those industry-based certifications, and taking those dual credit classes, class opportunities to ensure that we are meeting our CCR goals. And once again, closing the gaps in all student groups at CCR. So we have 6 areas here where we're monitoring student groups in the area of CCR. We've set goals through 2026. And again, we'll adjust as needed if our students happen to exceed the goals that we have set. This is the goal progress measures calendar that we use. You've seen this before. We've given you an updated one tonight, a nice big printed copy. This just kind of shows how we are going to be providing you with quarterly reports on student progress. Again, it goes from now through 2026. It has our goals for 3rd grade math, 3rd grade reading, and CCR. It shows our baseline for 2021, how our students did last year, and then sets the goals from there. It also includes our board constraints, our superintendent constraints that you all have already discussed and developed, agreed upon. At this time, I'm going to invite Ms. Haloma from TEA. Welcome, TEA.
Thank you.
To take us into our next steps. Thank you.
Welcome.
Hello, Mr. Coronado, members of the board. It's great to see you all. So what Dr. Kennedy just presented, she provided you with the goals and tentative goal progress measures. When we engaged in our self-evaluation back in, remind me again, Dr. Galaviz, October? Yes. We talked about how you were going to be focusing on those goals, goal progress measures, and constraints. So she presented you with some tentative goals and goal progress measures. Thank you. And what we are going to be working on next, you already have your superintendent constraints. You already developed some board self-constraints. Our next steps will be to review and adjust those superintendent constraints accordingly. And the way that we're going to be doing that will be by going out to the community, engaging in that vision and values listening sessions, so we can see, after the pandemic, there was a lot of things that changed, right? And those superintendent constraints may not be what the focus should be at this point. So next steps, review those superintendent constraints. We are going to begin to engage in two-way communication. I have homework for you that we're going to be doing so we can go out to the community and engage the community in these two-way communication sessions. And next month, we're going to be engaging in our next quarterly self-evaluation. We're going to go back to this rubric and review that. Yes, sir.
What I wanted to do with the board is push constraints for February. That way we can adopt our goals, our area of action, progress.
Yes, so we do not have to adopt anything right now. And I will highly recommend that we don't adopt. Dr. Kearney has presented those goals to you and goal progress measures. I recommend that the next step be go out to the community, engage in that two-way communication process. We're going to work with, I'm going to work with you, we're going to work on how that presentation is going to look like. We'll talk about who's going to partner up with who, which community members or organizations are you going to reach out to so you can deliver the message. Your committee gave you some pretty good ideas today on how to engage community, so you can write those down and implement those.
Mr. Chair, I have a question. And it's a very serious question. Our board constraints read the second one. Board members may not add items to the board agenda without approval of the board chair or 3 trustees. And I'm telling you, I think that it's illegal that we have this. I've tried for 5 months now to have an agenda item put on our agenda. No, the board president won't go for it, and I can't find but one other board member that'll go for it. And the problem I see is, I feel that, and legal, please listen, I feel that we're creating a walking forum and doing this, and that's illegal. If I have to call 3 people.
No, you and 2 other people.
But when I call Tristan and he says, no, I'll call Armando, and he goes, no. Well, what's the next step? I've got to call the next board member. I call Mr. Payan. No. I call Ms. Mendoza, and she says yes. But in so doing, I've already engaged 4 people. That's a walking forum, and I now have crossed the line into an illegal practice. No, I'm not finished. I have a problem with this. For 5 months, I have literally not been able to get a board agenda item on. And part of that is because I'm not going to put myself in a legal issue that I know is a walking forum. In legal, I think we need to get an opinion, please, on this constraint. That, I mean, yeah, 3 trustees, if the first 2 say, sure, you're good. But if you've got to go through more, there's a problem. So I'd like to see us have that change and have it made to where it's legally feasible to get an agenda item. It should only be 2. Our past policy only called for 2. This was changed
Again, I want to
in midstream.
remind Ms. Paloma and the board that constraints not on the agenda.
Well, it's right there.
Well, it's not on the agenda.
Review and adjust board constraints.
No, that's their PowerPoint.
But once again, I feel that Dr. Galavisa, I'm getting the pushback.
No, I'm just trying to go with what's on the agenda.
I understand, but this is the first chance I've had to speak to the board
And
about this.
Mr. Earls, this is Priscilla Mata, legal counsel for the school district.
And I'd like what I said to be for the record, please.
And for the record, we can have that conversation. Generally speaking, it's not exactly a walking forum if you are not discussing district business. But without more, no, it's not a violation of the Open Meetings Act. Now, if you want to strike up a conversation about the subject matter while you're checking with your colleagues to see if they want the item on the agenda, that's another question. But I think you know where to draw the line. And so I hope that in considering what agenda items are going to come forward in the future, all trustees are very conscious of the fact that you cannot be discussing or deliberating anything outside of this public. The public has the right and is entitled to know what deliberations are happening about district business. So, and I'm happy to discuss this with any one of the trustees, because I do want to make sure you understand that when you're considering what matters are going to make it to your agenda or your procedures, right? Something you've already agreed to, that the discussion stops at, this is what I want to put on the agenda, yes or no? And
I have not found that to be what happens, though. The questions come thereafter. Why do you want that on the agenda? Why should I have that on the agenda? There becomes an interaction. It's pretty much normal and human. But also that the board chair says, no, I won't do it. And so that it's very difficult, and I find it very frustrating and very inequitable, and possibly verging on the borderline of illegal. So that's all I'll say, and I sure would like us to look at our constraints, make them more user-friendly and more legal.
Well, Ms. Earls, we did discuss these constraints, but you were not present at that meeting.
Well, I'm here now.
Well, I wish you'd have been there for the 2 days that all the rest of our work.
No, our constraints were discussed last August, and they were changed quite quickly, actually.
Well,
So,
I'm just
nonetheless,
saying that we had ample opportunity to review this, and you decided not to show up. For 2 days we met. 2 days.
That's not when these constraints were done, Mr. Coronado. They were done at a later date. It's actually August, we have the minutes to the meeting. So moving forward, I wanted to be heard for the first time that I am trying to get an agenda item on, and I can't cross the line and go for illegal. And I get stonewalled by you, nope, find 2 other people. How can I call?
Well,
and keep going down the line. I'm a well-trained, I'm a master trustee for the state of Texas. I'm well-trained. I know that's wrong. So thank you.
Ms. Searles?
And moving on, Ms.
Ms.
Lawrence.
Searles? I will respond to that. Legal counsel has just told you that it's not inappropriate for you to do that, and it's not illegal.
But each
All you need to
person,
do is counsel with our legal advisor about how to do that. That's all you need to do.
okay.
Okay?
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
she just
maybe-
explained it to you.
what did you ask, Mr.
I said, for example, I would like to, Mr. Chair.
Well, I'm just saying, Ms. Trout, I'm still discussing this with Ms. Searles. I'm just saying, our legal counsel just told you how to go about doing it. And whether it's 3 trustees or 2, even if it's 2 trustees, you still have to call. If 2 of them don't agree, you still would have to call others.
Usually you can come to at least
What if
the
the
end of
first
the
2 you
line,
call,
and if
what if
there's
the
not
first 2
2,
you talk to do not agree to it?
well,
Then you go into the
probably
3rd
not.
one, now you're in the same boat that you talked
That's
about.
correct. And so that's where the board chair's opinion comes in. Right here it says the board chair or 3 trustees.
Right.
So,
But you know, the legal counsel has just instructed you how you would go about with that and being legal about it.
thank you, I appreciate it.
That's the way you should go about doing it.
I still think I'll be very happy to review it. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Ms. Brown.
I don't want to get out of the
Right.
agenda that we have
Right,
here.
we're starting to get out of it.
Yeah, but actually, it's going to be a quick question.
Yeah, sure.
For example, in this one, the 3 trustees, I think Ms. Barnes, she underlined a policy that we have that it says
Okay.
2 trustees.
We are not
Is
discussing
that
that right
part of these?
now.
No. I just wanted to know then, because we said 3 and the policy says 2. That's it. I mean, I just wanted to know, do we align with the policy or whatever we created before?
Well, we did that through the Lone Star governance as the restraints that were appropriate, that were reviewed by not just Ms. Paloma, but by a TEX.
So we still have a time to move on president too?
Can we stick to Ms. Paloma's presentation?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's it.
we need to really stick to
I
that.
was just only that question.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So,
Ms. Paloma.
if I may, it sounds like they need to go back and review those board self-constraints.
Yeah.
The board self-constraints were developed pre-COVID, so it has been a while. What was just adopted recently were the those edits that we made to board operating procedures. So that is separate from these board self-constraints. My suggestion is, let's schedule a workshop when we can work on the board self-constraints. We can work on your superintendent constraints, the ones that you have right now. And as we're working on that, go out to the community and listen, engage in that two-way communication for around vision and values on what should be covered through the goals and those constraints. Because remember, our goals reflect the vision of your community. The constraints represent the values of the community. So post-COVID, a lot of the boards are going out again to the community and listening again because times have changed. So my suggestion for our next steps will be continue to take a look at those goals, goal progress measures that were presented, because you need to own those goals. That's your job as trustees. You own those goals. Your superintendent provided some examples of those goal progress measures, and that's his job. He's the educational expert. So if you have any questions, why were those targets selected? Why was that tool to measure chosen? Your time will be to ask those questions at our next workshop, okay? Because you will be out, you'll be talking to the community. It will not be Dr. Galaviz, it will not be Dr. Kearney or his staff. You need to own that process, and you need to have a clear understanding of that. Okay?
Okay.
So that's the recommendation you're giving. And And I know you said the workshop amongst the board, I'm assuming, and then go out to the community. Is that the timeline you're kind of thinking? Workshop first, then go out? Or go out and then workshop what we, like feedback we received?
That's a great question. This is gonna be happening simultaneously. I'm going to be giving you homework, so you can start working on the groups that you wanna go out and, reach out to, who's gonna be collaborating with you. We're gonna be working on questions that you wanna ask the community. Also begin to plan when you'll be going out. If there's any other, committees or scientific conference, whatever that's taking place that you would like to join as well to engage in that two-way communication, this is gonna be that time. So also, in addition to that, we will be supporting you. How are you gonna be asking those questions? How are you gonna be gathering that information? How are you gonna come back and share that information with the rest of your trustees? So it will be happening simultaneously. We're gonna be working on finalizing those goals, you understanding those goal progress measures, reviewing the constraints, based on the feedback that you have been receiving, rethinking those. And then Dr. Benavides will work on those constraint progress measures that we do not have yet. In addition, that feedback is also going to help with the theory of action. The theory of action is this huge, bigger picture constraint where we think about where do we want our students to be in 20, 25 years. Constraints, that's shorter term, that's in 5 years. Your theory of action will be a bigger picture. Mr. Payano was talking about, when he was going to school, Mr. Granado was going to school. So what do you want the conversation to be in 20 years, 30 years, whoever is now, at that time, sitting with us right now. So feedback, community feedback will also impact how that theory of action is going to look like.
Mr. Hernandez, was it you or?
Just real quick, in regards to, I don't know if I'm out of the discussion, but just an update in regards to the reason why the Lone Star governance, or is that an item that we have to put on to see what the update is after the requirement for TEA to have us attend workshop? And have we received any documentation or anything that is go or in regards to corrective action plan? Or is that an item that we have to put aside?
That's not on there.
Yeah, it's not on the agenda, but certainly that's something we can ask.
It's on the agenda, it's a theory of action, goal progress measure.
Right.
And goals and goal progress measure.
And
very simple.
And for that, I don't have an issue with that, moving forward with that. So I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
So my recommendation would be for the board to schedule a 3-hour workshop where we can take that deeper dive into the community feedback and then begin to look at those constraints. Okay.
The date that we're looking is February.
We don't have, well, I guess that's not on the agenda, right? For them to come up with a date.
I think Dr. Administration can reach out to the board members.
I think TEA and myself need to be on the same page. I was very specific on a theory of action. You need a theory of action before you start, because you need to be able to, what approach is, what theory are you going to approach when you look at the data. The root analysis was done. Now we go to the goal progress measures need to be had, because we have teachers in the classroom who need to know how we're moving, how we're adjusting. They don't got time to wait for another workshop, and then you do a goal progress measure, just as we did this before. So, and then you go to the community to say, this is what we developed, goal progress measure, based on the data. Today or whatever, you know what? We're here today. So that's what I understood. Not come up with another workshop, because our calendar, our agendas, we're graded on how much we talk about student performance. So why not talk about student performance, theory of action in a regular board meeting? It doesn't make sense to go having a workshop and another workshop. This is your time to talk about kids. So I just think TEA, Solomon and I need to talk, make sure that we're on the same page.
Sounds good, Dr. Galavis. My recommendation to go out and listen to the community for the theory of action. The theory of action is part of those constraints. As we're looking at the LSG instrument, constraints is part of that ownership of the community. So we don't want to go out to the community and say, hey, this is what we decided to do, give us your feedback now. My recommendation is go out to the community, listen to what they have to say around vision and values. At the same time, as you're working on, we already know that we need to have 3 goals. 1 for reading, 1 for math, and 1 for system art. As we're working on those, then develop the both constraint progress measures and goal progress measures. So that's why I'm saying that we're working on that simultaneously. Once that's quote unquote finalized or closer to a finished product, then go out to the community again and say, hey, we heard what you said, we had the data that our superintendent presented, this is what we want to implement. I agree that our teachers do not have time to waste. We do have some tentative goals that were presented, so we don't have to change directions. You know that we have the goals, reading, math, college career readiness. So that's my recommendation. We don't need to wait for another board meeting. We can move on this as soon as you can, as soon as you want to.
Another question, Doctor, do you preface this item with a recommendation you gave? So is that recommendation that Mr. Roma is giving us the same as the recommendation that you would?
No.
No. And can you repeat your recommendation on what you prefaced the item with? It was to adopt what?
I see so many balloons.
Area of action and student performance.
Yeah.
The theory of action and student performance.
Theory of action needs to come from theory. You go out to the community, you're going to talk about a theory of action. I just don't understand. There's a theory of action on how you address student performance. Theory, different theories of action. We recommend that go to the community and say, tell me what you think our theory of action should be. It's not logical to me. I bet it's not right. It's just looking at, you need to address or have that mindset when you go in and this is what we're about. This is our theory. This is our value system. When we attack the goal progress measure. And then you start calibrating, making sure we're on the same page. That's how I perceive LSD. So unless it changed, which it probably has, I don't recommend that.
So what would be your recommendation?
You adopt the theory of action. I don't see any theory of action in there. Theory of action in there?
No. And if I may, my understanding for today was, and that was my mistake. My understanding for today was we were going to talk about the goals, goal progress measures, the superintendent constraints, and then just share with you those constraints, and then just talk about the next steps. I failed to look at the agenda and look at the theory of action until today. That I'm going to take the blame for that one. That was part of my miscommunication with Dr. Galavis on what the expectation was going to be.
So in regards to this item, is this going to be tabled then, or what is?
Yeah, we'll table this item until next month. Ms. Coloma and myself can be on the same page. I apologize also.
Dr. Galavis, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Galavis, could you bring us like some examples of theories that you think the theories of action? Yeah, like.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, so that we don't just have to think them up, maybe, I mean.
No, we have some.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
And there's going to be a process that we're going to follow for the theory of action. So, for example, if we want our students to
this is just an example, speak two languages or be bicultural. If we want our teachers to have the time to prepare differentiated lessons, if we want whatever it is, we're gonna have about 3 to 5 ifs, and then we're gonna have a then statement. Then this is what we're going to be doing as a district. So I'll walk you through that process. I would highly recommend Matt to look at examples, and that once again, that's why I'm asking you to listen to the community for what they want. Like, what is it that we want for our students? What is it that we want for our teachers? What do we want to see in those 15, 20, 25 years? So it will be a series of big statements. If this is what we do, then this is what we should. If this is what we want, then this is what we should be doing.
I'm sorry, I thought when it's a series of action, it was gonna be like some real upper level thinking smart stuff that,
yeah, no,
but
and
this is what you're saying, it's just regular.
Yes, and Dr. Calabrese is right. We're going to be backing all of that down with theory. So it's not gonna be just, you know, this is the flavor of the month, or this is what we think that's gonna work. Whatever those if statements are going to be, there's gonna be research. It's gonna be based on research and best practice.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rose. Anybody else? Okay, so then I guess we will, take this item, with the board's consent, we will table this item if, I hear anything different from the board.
Do we need to make a motion?
No, we can just, get consent from the board.
Board President, I would prefer a motion to table the item.
Okay.
This week, the public has notice of the item being moved to your next board meeting, if that's when you want to take it up.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I have a motion.
All right.
I was calling the motion first, but I would like, since we're gonna table this, we need to put the dates.
For
When are we going to, the next board meeting? Okay, I would like to make a motion to have this and talk about in the next board meeting, February the 25th.
all right.
22nd, it's February the 26th.
All right, but, we have a motion from Mr. Hernandez first. Mr. Hernandez? Is that your motion? That's exactly what was discussed. That's exactly what was discussed. Will you second that, Mr.?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. This agenda item, any further discussion? Hearing none. Stephanie?
Mr. Coronado?
Yes?
Mr. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mrs. Mendoza?
Yes.
Mr. Payan?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mrs. Searles?
I have to abstain. I don't know if I can, I have a very old mother, and I don't, she's right on the edge. I don't know that I can commit at this point, so I will abstain. I apologize.
All right.
And Mrs. Trump?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, that takes us to the next agenda item. Thank you, Ms. Paloma.
5A2, discussion and possible action to develop and adopt student outcome goals based on a comprehensive needs assessment. Population, 2, a 5-year deadline, 3, a baseline, and 4, annual student group targets.
Actually, we're gonna table the next two.
Table both 5A2 and 5A3?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, and so I'll entertain a motion then to,
I move, second.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Second.
Mr. Rodriguez, do you have a second, Ms. Pratt?
Yes.
All right, and that is to table these items along with the other item we just did for the.
For the next board meeting?
All right,
Okay. Mr. Coronado?
yes.
Mr. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mrs. Mendoza?
Yes.
Mr. Payan?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mrs. Searles?
I'll abstain for the same reason.
And Ms. Trump? Motion passes.
All right, board, can we take a quick, 5-minute recess? Drink a lot of water. No, fine. All right, with the board consent, we are recessed for 5 minutes. Washington, D.C. All right, and let's see. I'll start with Ms. Earl from my right.
Sure. You know, I asked earlier, was Dr. Galavis, was everything okay? And it looks like he's cranking up to put a video on of Anthony Robles.
Yes, that's what I asked.
The most amazing amazing man I've ever seen speak, and I think we all saw him speak, and we'll see the video, so I'll pass up on that piece. There were some really interesting things I learned. The 3 E's: educate, enlist, or employ. Equity policy was, equity is every student known by name, strength, and need. Listen and know your community. This was a good one. If serving is beneath you, leading is above you. So here's another very interesting thing I learned, and I really like the way this was put. Equity equals everyone gets shoes. We're going to give everybody a free pair of shoes. But equality equals they're all going to be the right size. They're not just going to be my big feet. We're going to put your little feet in them. So I thought those were some really good takeaways. The man Anthony Robles was truly a story of courage like I have never heard in my life. I would like to possibly see him come and speak to our district at a convocation, and I see your heads bobbing. I think it's something we could all wholeheartedly agree upon. He's phenomenal. I also took away that we need to stop taking things personally as boards, and we need to get a degree in CS. It's called common sense. And I thought that was very helpful also. We saw some other really good speakers. Real good guy who came, and it was, you can't tell what's in the package. Quit looking at the package. He came in to speak to us, and he had on a big headband and these dreadlocks that were sticking straight up on his hair. If Martha Pekarsky took everything and they all went straight up. He had on baggy clothes, a crummy pair of pants, crummy backpack, and everybody was kind of, sure. And another man came up and danced. He was dressed very lovely, so we all naturally thought the dancing man was going to be the speaking man. Not at all correct. The dancing man went away. The speaking man spoke, and as he finished his speech, he pulled off his wig. He pulled off his backpack. He pulled off his baggy, crummy clothes. He was dressed in a suit with a modest haircut like you have. And it was really to make the point of, I guess, what we all were taught. You can't tell a book by its cover. You need to know who a person is instead of what a person is. And it was really a phenomenal presentation. So I enjoyed the time spent. I was very happy to get home. It's very, very cold in Washington. And I thank the district for allowing me to go and to learn more. I felt very enriched. And I did bring back, and I discussed this with Martha Pekarsky, and she told me Dr. Rico would hear about it too. The public hearings that they're going to have through February 23rd, and it's about broadband in our country. $650 billion that is going to be out for grants. And I was thinking possibly we could even hire a grant writer to listen to these public hearings that will go on through February the 23rd. And it could be contract services, as Dr. Galvez knows. Here, listen, and possibly start to write some grants for our school district, because I thought we fit into every category that they mentioned. If we could get part of that $650 billion. So maybe somebody will have a thought on that and go forward. But I thank you, and I thank our community for sending me away.
Thank you, Ms. Rose.
And then letting me come back as well.
They didn't send you away, they just.
Momentarily.
Totally different perspective, Ms. Rose.
Thank you very much. We got a smile. We got a smile out of it. Thank you very much.
Okay, Ms. Brown.
Yes, I do have enjoyed it a lot, and it's always, as many times as I go, I always learn something.
and I really love the Baptist National School Board Association. And this one is, I really learn from our students. I love the student panel, the high school student panel. So they were talking about how they've been successful at school. And I just personally stood up and make a question to one of them. And I told him, what is the message that you would like to take to our students that are overwhelmed and burned emotionally? And then he says, well, what I really highly recommended is they take the classes that they really enjoy it so they could be successful in the grades, the classes. And also he addressed something afterwards. He says, well, something important that the school never think about it is how can you guys prepare us as students, open a bank account? How can I get my credit? What is the needs that we need whenever we go and rent a house? What is the obligations in order for us if we would like to purchase a house? When we're working, we start our financials. The school doesn't prepare us for financials. So we'll be good, Dr. Galavis, thinking about our high schoolers, maybe to open a class so we could give a good advice for our kids, in financials. How they can reestablish whenever they lose their credit, if they lose it. How can they start to build a credit? Bank account, it is a very basic that we should know. And if we prepare kids in an early age, we'll be much better, right? They could be so successful. So it's something that I really enjoyed it. And it is the class that I bring you guys from our students over there, from our board students over there. So I'm pretty sure that a lot of our students, they will identify with that need as well. So hopefully, Dr. Galavis, we could offer something, at least in high school, for both high schools. And also, I would like to give you a little bit of information about IDEA. We were successful to meet with Senator John Coyner, Mr. Rodriguez, and myself, and we address, along with another needs, the IDEA. And this act, of course, what I was saying when I was talking to the chief staff, I told her the idea, the federal government promise and the commitment level was 40% from the whole national budget. And they're only addressing 15% to that department idea. So a shortfall of 23.58%. So billions, those are billions, I'm sorry, them are short, 23.58 billions. So we are promoting the bill. The bill is SSM number 3213, which says the bill has successfully been used, rely interest and commitment to significantly increase funding for IDEA, and has been attributed and responsible for 2.5 billion in additional funding for IDEA Part B, provided through the American Rescue Plan. And this American Rescue Plan made significantly additional investment of 450 million in programs in early childhood and intervention services that can help to reduce the burden of IDEA Part B by supporting our children with disabilities in the early age. So this bill, of course, that we were promoting and encourage our senators that signed it. This bill, like I said, is SSM 3213, which I found it very interesting in knowing that they have not committed what they promised at the beginning. From the 40% of the whole budget, they only give us 15.7%, which is nothing. We still punish in that department, Mr. Chambers, but we're going to still fight for that, definitely. And that is what. And also, I would like to give a little bit of updates in legislature. So the Congress is 4 months behind the completed the federal year of 2022 budget for United States Department of Education. Senate and the House appropriations are working to complete the fiscal year 2022 budget by February the 18th, when the stopgap federal spending bill will expire. And SBA is urging federal leaders to complete work in the current year budget ASAP. So that work can begin in the fiscal year of 2023, in the 2023 budget. Something important, even I was sending some slides to Dr. Rico, but I thought it was very important.
about technology. So this technology, what it says, I would like to give you a little bit of information about what we have here. Give me 1 second because I have a lot of information here. And this one says, how can school board members lead to close the homework gap? Ensure your school district considers applying for the third window of the Emergency Connectivity Fund. If resources are needed and the district did not apply in the first and second window, they still have a chance. Consider notifying families about the Affordable Connectivity Program and direct them to the FCC's website for instructions about how to apply for this program. I would like to give this link because it's very important for the parents as well. It's www.fcc.gov/ACP. So parents, please, and administration.
One more time.
www.f as in Frank, C as in Charles, .gov/A as in Apple, C as in Charles, P as in Paul. And ask, please, your governor and other state leaders to ensure that the new infrastructure broadband funding benefits students and schools, considering seeking digital equity grants for NTIA to promote broadband use. Also, I want to give some certain amounts here that I consider is very important. The key broadband infrastructure programs are $42.45 billion for formula grants to states for high-speed broadband deployment to households and business that currently lack access to such a service. Each state will receive a minimum of $100 million. Number two is $2 billion for tribal broadband grants. This is for tribals and Americans that affordability projects, people like Mezcaleros and all that stuff to support them. There's another $2.75 billion to fund digital equity grants focused on including communities that lack of the skills, technology, and support needed to take advantage of the broadband connections, the combination of formula and competitive grants. And $1 billion for middle mile connections to build a high-speed backbone for the community's business and anchor instructions. So with this being said, another clause that I took that I thought it was very important is the digital. That it says that is in order to close in the homework gap, to equip our students and teachers with the adequate technology. And of course, providing with the devices that them are sure they're going to work good and the instructional needs connectivity that they needed. I'm talking about the old devices. I'm talking about the hotspots. So everything going to be upgraded. And I'm pretty sure that with this grant that we have, we can always help the students to get good and new devices. Because if they roll over, because they have it as a freshman, who used it before or who will use it whenever they graduate from high school. We're talking about 12 years life is too much for them. So, of course, it is talking about the protection of theft. It's talking about to protect the data of the students as well. They give us some examples about some districts that they suffer from that data stolen from kids in elementary school. So of course, this kind of grants, they're going to help us to get a good connectivity, good protection, and good devices for our students. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Travis. And I'll go to my left over here, Mr. Rodriguez.
So, I believe a lot of the information was shared, especially what was on the pamphlets provided to us. So I think I don't want to go in depth on that, but in regards to, one was the Equity Symposium, and then we had the Advocacy Institute. I'll start off with the equity symposium. As we know, a lot of good work that we've been doing in our community with equity. And so you had Mr. Robles first talk about special needs, especially not having his foot and how he grew up. But then you also had Ms. Lohan talk about, Diana Lohan talk about the need for LGBTQ youth to also be able to see themselves and be able to get a better appreciation in regards to their current classroom settings. One of the questions that, or one of the issues was in regards to the Tulsa massacre. It says we have a hard history and we need to teach it. So that's important in regards to a lot of these history lessons that we need to make sure our kids know and understand. So that was a lot to do with that equity symposium. And then in regards to the Advocacy Institute, the major issues were IDEA, the homework gap, and technology is going to play a critical role in regards to funding, as well as some of the issues that we're starting to see in regards to safety and security issues, technology areas. So I was also thankful and able to represent the district in regards to some of the innovative stuff we've done in regards to one-on-one devices and Theo Connect. So thank staff for really taking that lead. But we were also able to be represented in a panel at the Equity Symposium. So.
All right, thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Next, Ms.
I won't be as long-winded as my colleagues because it was my first go-around. I truly enjoyed the conference. The thing that stuck with me the most was that they kept emphasizing that public funds should go to public schools. They talked about the vouchers and the funding system. They also had a panel of three that I'll let Mr. Coronado go more in depth. They had a panel of three high school seniors, one from Virginia, one from Arlington, and one from San Antonio, I believe. And they basically were telling the audience of board members and administrators what they felt they needed to succeed in life. And it was like Mr. Coronado said in the beginning, it was an eye-opener for me because it was coming right from them, what they felt they needed and what they felt they didn't need in order to succeed. The best part about it, I thought, was to be able to interact with other school districts from all across the United States. It was just enlightening to see the amount of information being shared across the table, meeting people in like circumstances.
Very well put. Thank you. And now I'll try to be brief, but some of these things are really important, and like Ms. Trump mentioned, Dr. Rico and Martha, there is going to be another window that's opening up here coming up for us to be able to apply for the connectivity and those issues. Obviously, we heard from some of the presentations of some districts are still not there in terms of the connectivity. And so it's just, kudos to our administration and our district that we got on the ball right away and did that. We got ourselves in debt, but it was very well worth it. Hopefully we can get some of that money back. At the end, I want Dr. Galavis and Dr. Rico to play this video of this individual he's from Mesa, Arizona. Name's Anthony Robles. You are going to be, I wanted, after I finish talking, I don't want to take anything from his, the value of his speech to us at this conference. It just completely blew me away, and we may think about not just him, but a couple other people that I can think of. One of them was at the Cube that we went to a couple years back in Miami. He's a doctor. He's now he's a doctor and a professor at Harvard who does some excellent work with some gangs in Los Angeles. We need to have him here. It's just incredible. But you know that I can see him bringing these individuals for a conversation, or maybe even like something like an equity symposium of our own here in this region, and invite the other districts to participate with us. But you'll see what I mean about this particular individual. But we did have several speakers on the equity symposium. One of them was an athlete who mentioned a lot about Megan Rapinoe, about how her issues and how she brought about to the forefront the LGBTQIA issues, and she was there to speak about that. And just enlightening to hear some of the aspects as to why it's important for these equity issues, how much they affect these individuals when they don't have these people access or these equity issues. And then, of course, we also heard from Mr. Robles. I want you to see the video. But one of the most important things when we were there was actually to try to advocate for more funds from our government for our students with disabilities. The idea, and while there is a bipartisan bill in the House, HR 5984, like Ms. Trump mentioned, Senator Holland, who is sponsoring the bill in the Senate, 3213. Are we going to get everything that we want? No, it's not going to happen. The reality of things, and we had one individual who spoke to us on a dinner Monday night, to just the Texas delegation, just the Texas delegation who works with representatives and been involved in. And he says, in these times right now, it's very, very difficult to advance anything forward. And so what he says is that these representatives have to start throwing out these little nuggets of where people can seem to get together and cooperate on both sides of the aisle. Because he says it's very, very few and far between. And the reality of that is exactly that. But he says that the way to approach this is that you gotta do that so that in the future, and you gotta go and contact these individuals on the other side of the aisle and make contact, if not for the now, for the future, that they'll know, hey, this person is willing to work with me on these particular issues. And little nuggets down the road, they might be able, and some of those things have come about where they get little things done. And he just flat out told us it's very difficult to get anything of great importance done right now. It's just so broken, in my opinion. That we used to be able to come down after elections and gather around the middle and actually do work for our country, and that's got away. The reality of that is that he says you can see that there's little issues that they can work on, but it's going to take momentum and time until we find some way to come together and heal over these divisive issues that we have. So that was just really enlightening. That wasn't even part of the conference. That was our state delegation that invited this individual to talk to us. Works with the legislators. But I did send a communication to both our representative while I was there, Ms. Veronica Escobar, and also to Senator Corner and Senator Cruz. I wish he'd been available. We understand because of COVID we weren't able to meet with them. But wish we could have done it with all of them by Zoom. You know, but even so, Washington right now and New York are so, I guess, you know, they're COVID, and so no business right now. I mean, the capital is completely closed. We tried to even see if we could get a tour when we were supposed to go to that big Congress, and absolutely not.
They
Nothing.
canceled the education department tour that was supposed to
Yes,
happen,
it was canceled. Everything is just kind of like shut down, so we were kind of hamstrung what we could do. But I did send out that message that, you know, to Mr. Senator Cornyn and Senator Cruz. I mean, I appreciate Senator Cornyn that he did deal with it. Senator Cruz did not. You know, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. Mr. Cornyn was more receptive on this issue. And so, you know, I wish I could tell you that, you know, we're going to get a lot more money for our individuals with disabilities, our students, but I can see maybe getting some, but I just don't see it. It's really difficult. And, you know, everybody needs to contact their representative and tell them how important this is, because like Ms. Trump mentioned, they've promised back for, I don't know, 34 years, and every president since this was enacted has reenacted this commitment, and still nothing. And on the average countrywide, it's 15.7%. I think here at Canutillo, we might be a little above that. I don't know, a little bit above that. But on average throughout the country, it's 15.7%. And so the shortfall that they're supposed to be giving us amounts to about $24 billion. $24 billion. That's basically $1 billion for every percent that we're shortchanged. Okay? And so we're basically receiving a little bit over a third of what their commitment is. Okay? And so it's just a great disparity from what they've committed to do. And of course, that takes resources away from the district to be able to do other programs. So we have to, you know, shoulder the bigger burden to do that.
Mr. Coronel, if I may, just make a little
Yes.
comment in regards to that. For the 35 minutes that we had a conversation with Laura Urban, which is the chief of staff of Mr. Cornyn, she recommended this, Dr. Galaviz, maybe you can talk to PIO. It says every school district, and I'm going to do it in regards to Canutillo, obviously, sent a letter with all the needs that we have here from special education. How many kids do we have to serve? What are the needs that we need to cover? And what shortage of teachers do we have and specialized teachers that we need to allocate for that department? Certificate teachers. You know, all the things that we really needed, make like, let's say, like numbers, and send it to her. Send it to John Cornyn office and let them know the needs that we have here. So they highly encourage to us to talk to the school district's leaders and PIO and send a letter to there and let's do our homework.
Thank you.
Right? Thank you.
I think, you know, at this point, we go over there and, you know, spend a little. 2-3 years ago that we went, the House did pass a resolution from the advocacy. We went and met with them. But then the Senate did nothing with it. It just put it on the stack of bills that were sent from the House over to the Senate. They didn't even look at it. You know, I think that like kind of like what Ms. Trout said, I think it's time that we have to start yelling at these people, not just asking them please. You know, it is really disheartening to think that things have gotten so broken that they don't even honor their commitment to our students with disabilities because of that. That is just, to me, despicable. I don't know what other word to say.
That's true, but we're not going to get tired. We're going to still
And NSBA has been advocating for that for I don't know how many years, and still
25 years.
Yeah,
25 years.
just doesn't ring. I don't know. But anyways, we keep trying. We keep having to send people these notices. And like I said, I've asked Congresswoman Escobar to be a co-sponsor of that bipartisan bill. I've asked Senator John Cornyn to be a co-sponsor along with Mr. Cruz, Senator Cruz, of the bill that Senator Van Hollen is putting forward, which is the one that was mentioned by Ms. Crown. I mean, that was really the focus of our advocacy there. We didn't get to do a whole lot of talking to them. At least 3 years ago, we met with them. This time around, it was even none or just their staff. That's just, I don't know, folks. but I'll tell you what, this conference does open your eyes about things that are going on and that we need to do but aren't happening. And these equity issues that we need to keep fighting for. And even if we start getting them little nuggets, hey, getting something, because unfortunately that's the way our government is working now. The only way it's going to work. No one side is going to let the other get a great gain on something that they want to do. It's just not going to happen. It's not happening. Anyways, I'll get off my soapbox on that issue, but that really was the focus of the conference. One of the things that Ms. Mendoza mentioned, and that opened my eyes and we were talking about when we were talking about our report, is these three individuals, these three high school students that they put up. Two of them were from Virginia, one from Fairfax and one from Arlington. The other one is from San Antonio, from Northside ISD, where they are required to complete a certification in something. What I got out of from these individuals, and I'm going to try to encapsulate it in about, in a one sentence, is these kids basically said, look, if a teacher is not getting me engaged for me to get off my phone, I'm not going to pay attention. The teacher needs to engage me, number one, and I wrote it down in my book about what these students said. And these are, these are the students that, are just very passive. These are kids that are very well spoken. I'm sure they make good grades. But what I got from their presentation was this: look, I want a teacher that engages me, and I want them to tell me things that are important to my future. And I want them to be engaged in something that prepares me for me to be able to make a living for my future.
That's the same student that he was saying, why don't we have that class that we would like to know how can we start, our credit card, to apply for a credit card when we start to work, because that's the age when they start to go and look for jobs, and restaurants, whatever, right? He was the same one.
And I agree. We probably ought to teach our kids to do a little bit more like life skills, exactly that. And these kids were mentioning those things. And some of them were mentioned, I want to go to college, but basically what I got from these three kids is don't waste our time. Don't waste my time. Tell me something, teach me something, engage me, and teach me something that's going to be good for my future. I really need to take that to heart. And really, this individual had a lot of laughs. He just spoke really very candidly to the core, and that was this individual from Northside ISD in San Antonio. And it really has to do with preparation for them, to get out of here with a job and make money. And that doesn't mean they can't continue on to college, to university and get a degree, but at least they have something that they can work. And maybe because of them making money, they're more apt to go to the university and not drop out because they are making money to help them pay for this. So, and I think we need to take that to heart, that we need to start focusing on doing this career tech center that we so really want to get accomplished. And so these kids are telling us, don't waste our time, engage me. So that's something that we need to work on with, when when it comes to, this goes to our curriculum staff, is, you know, we need to get teachers that do that engage our kids. Not teachers that are going to lecture from the board, you know, write things up there. We need people that, you know, that at least all three of them told us that. Right?
Yes.
All three of them told us that. Right?
Not the same.
If you don't engage me, I'm going to be on my phone. It's a reality of the now. You know? The reality of the now.
Financially, they really say that.
Yes.
They really need to learn how to open a credit card, what they're gonna do with a bank account, how can they build up a credit, how can they rent an apartment. No one prepares for us, and then when we graduate, we're gonna face a different world. Guess what? Yeah, they taught me everything, mathematics and algebra, whatever you want to say, but what about these life skills that I need to know?
Yeah. You know,
Think about that.
there's various other of these sessions that are, you know, some of them really did stand out, but, you know, I'm not going to go into all the rest of them, but I just want the community to really focus on those things that one of these kids told us that where our Congress is on the advocacy and the whole reason we were there and what's happening and maybe what we need to start doing. There is going to be some money for connectivity, for those issues, coming up down the pike, not as much as we want, but, you know, at least it gives us an opportunity to follow and see if we can get that. And hopefully they'll give us a little bit of money for our students with these, special needs. I see that we can get a little bit of it. What we really want, there's just no way, folks. I'm not getting it. This is not gonna happen. And that's what's really disturbing. It's just very disturbing. Anyways, I really want you all to see this video of this man that we saw that just, you're going to be very impressed. Dr. Rico, do you have that?
Every soul who comes to earth with a leg or two of birth must wrestle his opponents knowing it's not what is, it's what can be that measures worth. Make it hard, just make it possible. And through pain, I'm not what they. My spirit is uncomfortable. Fear that I will face this foe, for I know I am capable. I don't care what's probable. Through blood, sweat, and tears, I am unstoppable. When I was born, my birth dad immediately down. I was born with one leg, and my mom could have walked away, just give me up for adoption, but she didn't. She taught me to never let what I cannot do interfere with what I can do. She didn't protect me from pain and good, because she knew it would make me stronger. We all wrestle with our own challenges, and we all wrestle with our own obstacles, and there's always something waiting around the corner that's going to challenge you. But what I like to say is that you can't let the challenge become an excuse, and you can't let the challenge pull you down and pin you to the mat. You got to fight through it and figure out a way to get it done and become unstoppable. wanted to quit wrestling and get a job to help pay the bills. My mom refused to let me just give up. And here I am today, national champion.
All right, just a little taste of what this individual went through. Everybody would tell him, no, you can't wrestle, you only have one leg. You don't have the weight, you can't do that. And he's, real close to us actually. He's from Mesa, Arizona, and nobody would give him a chance. Not in high school, finally got on. He became a state champion in high school. No college would take him. He applied. Nobody would take him. They just told me, the lowest weight we have is 125. You're 20, 30 pounds below that. There's no way. He thought he was going to be getting offers from all these colleges and universities. Nobody called. He starts calling them to see, hey, what's the deal? I'm a state wrestling champ. Nobody would. And that was the only way they could, really try and see him get a scholarship if they would give it to him. He finally convinced his mom to allow him to go because one particular university, Arizona State, told him, the coach told him, look, the only way we'll let you try out is if you walk on, but you're not going to get any money. You're going to have to do this payment on your own. He convinced his mom to do that. She took out, got a loan, I believe there was okay, to do this. 4 jobs. Okay, she did.
No, he did.
He did, yeah. Before he, so throughout, he finally, one year he made it all the way to the top 8 in college. The following year, his coaches at ASU told him, you know what, we think you can really do this. Here you go, here's a full ride scholarship. When everybody in the world had told him no, he kept at it. He got his scholarship. But that wasn't the end of the story. He had all these setbacks again. His mom almost lost her house. She became ill. They almost lost their home. He almost quit, as you heard on the video, to go and help support his mom so they wouldn't lose their house.
And then he got sick.
And then he got sick. This story is just so incredible. And then they showed us the trailer. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is doing a movie about him. So we will see that sometime in the near future. And so he finally gets to the championship and is going up against this kid that you saw him wrestling with. He was the champion from the national champ from the year before, and just an astute athlete. And this individual thought, well, it's difficult to wrestle this dead, but I'm going to do it again. Lo and behold, to his surprise, Mr. Robles had something else up his sleeve and became the national champion. Collegiate national champion in his weight class. What a story. Anyways, you have to be there to meet him. I did take a picture with him. Miss Earls.
So I don't mean to break off Mr. Robles, but he was fabulous. You can't tell the whole story, Mr. Coronado, or somebody else.
You know what? But, when he tells it in person,
I cried. I was bringing out my little cry rag the entire time. But I wanted to bring up something. I'm sorry to backtrack. Tonight we have on our agenda that 2 things Ms. Trout was upset about, that maybe we're not teaching these kids financially. You had some issues. We do have on our agenda an MOU, and included in it are 3 adult preparation subjects. Financial literacy is first in line. So thank you, Dr. Ray. And it's free. It's free to us.
and I know we've done that in the past with the Government Employees Credit Union, where we used to teach them about literacy, opening up an account here at the high school, and we even had their presence here at the high school for some time, right?
Yes. But we are, we're not.
Well, we're trying to do something.
We're
but I think
trying.
we can
Yes,
get that.
thank you.
But thank you for doing it.
Thank you so much.
Anyways, all right, anybody else? Okay, that kind of wraps it up. Next agenda item, Stephanie.
5C, discussion and possible action regarding the creation of student, campus, and community representative positions to serve on the Board of Trustees.
So I'll just be brief on this. Met with two of the student government bodies and seen if their interest was in. And then one of the things that we're looking at, and Dr. Galavisa is going to work with TASB to look at a policy. And so we're looking at the student government president and or delegate to be appointed and approved by the principal of that campus. Let's say in future references there's no student government, then it would be an elected or appointed, approved by the campus. If there was no student government body, there's going to be some roles and responsibilities. And then the same thing goes for the district advisory council. What we're looking at is how can we meet with them quarterly. So we would meet with student government groups as well as the district advisory council on a quarterly meeting, just so that way we could get some more communication. And then looking at that advisory group being present at the board meetings and probably having an agenda item to share any ideas. So it's still work in progress, but I believe Dr. Galavisa is working to create that policy.
Good. And you know what? One of the sessions there at the conference was actually on making good policy, incorporating student views on education and learning. So, and Ms. Mendoza and I went to a session that we thought about recommending something for that student group maybe to take up for research. And it involves, let me see if I got this right. That's it. It was, I forget the actual name, but it had to do with trying to convert and to do, we're like a natural setting and park setting in our schools. And I granted in the East Coast, they have a lot of concrete, right? But we don't necessarily have a lot of concrete. We have schools like Damian and Garcia, but we do have that important campus that besides concrete, a lot of caliche, a lot of rocks, right? That's hard for us to develop anything that can grow out there. But we thought that maybe that's something that your student group could maybe take up in conjunction with the A&M service here locally about researching what they could do on something like that and maybe make a presentation to the board. Or whatever else they want. That was just a suggestion from Ms. Mendoza.
Just to provide a little bit of information.
Yeah, and what things that we can do that maybe we can do to bring it up, because yeah, those campuses really, you know, we're talking about equity, you know, and we've tried in the past. But maybe this is something that, you know, needs a little more in-depth research, and maybe that some of these students can, you know, wet their hands.
Board
Might be a
President
good thing.
Coronado, I'm sorry to interrupt. I think the discussion was a little off topic.
Okay.
If we can get back to the subject matter.
You got it.
Mr. Chair, I do have a question.
Yes.
I would like to ask, maybe Mr. Rodriguez can answer me this. I do understand that it's going to create the student council or group of students who represent every campus.
We don't want to duplicate what's already being present. We're just making the current student government body president that representative, and if that individual is not being able to be present, they could assign a delegate, and then there's going to be some roles and responsibilities to make sure that they attend those
The board meetings at 7. Okay, then how is this going to be the selection of this individual?
It's the student government president and or
Yeah, who's going to select them? How? What is the process?
it's the student government, the way the student government body is selected.
We need to create a student government.
No. Each high school, the high school in the Northwest Early College have a student
Oh, yes,
government
I
body
did.
president.
It was exactly my next question. This is only at high school level. Are we going to have any representative of student voices from elementary or special education?
So this would be only the student advisory group, and then what we're looking at also including is, whoever's in charge of the TAC. So those 3 individuals would be at our board meeting. We would probably allocate, an agenda item to have that discussion if there's anything that we need to look at, if there are any thoughts. So.
Still my question, then elementary students, are they going to have a voice in this? Are they going to have the opportunities to talk with those students and then bring the concerns or whatever they would like to?
So right now, we're just looking at the secondary campuses.
And the secondary only in high school, only high school?
Correct.
Only high school? Because we'll be good if we include,
The discussion was to, from my understanding, the district advisory council needs to look at some of their policies and to include students, and that might allow for some of the student representatives to give back input, but we don't want to duplicate other.
we need to see the policies, how are the, right? How is this built or?
We're not duplicating or creating another student government association or anything. It's what is currently present. And we're going to allow for some flexibility, but we want some accountability. And the goal was to see if they were interested. So 1, they could provide us feedback, and 2, we get their perspectives, but it hopefully also builds some leadership capacity in those areas, their understanding of the governance role of the board.
So their role is going to come and speak to us. Are they going to travel with us as well?
I don't, right now it's just to create a policy for that, and that's something separate, but, that's.
So they're going to come, and it's going to be 1 individual, 2 or 3?
There's 2 secondary campuses.
So 1 per campus.
College High School, and then it would be
College High School?
The policy would be broad in case we did get another secondary campus or another academy or whatever it may be, to allow for that representation as well. So it would be anybody that would be in our secondary campuses to create that. Let's say if we were to get another high school but they didn't have a student government, then it would be an elected or appointed by the principal to be the representative, and then there's going to be roles and responsibilities. I just wanted to give an update and then allow staff to work with, to create this policy, and then that way we could have more detailed discussion then, but that's why I was just.
And then what is going to be their function, right? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sher.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Ms. Earls?
Yes. I like the thought process that has evolved between last meeting and this meeting. It sounds like it's being thought of. I'd just like to make sure, and I think this is what I'm hearing, that we have legal committees, our CIC, our DAC, and our PTOs, that somehow through the policy that we, I guess, touch on each aspect of those people's duties, so that we don't have someone, we have legal policies that those committees have to be in, that we don't step on someone's roles and responsibilities with something we've created, that, with everything, and I guess that's still legal, that we make sure that we can maybe look at some other districts.
And I think my understanding, Mr. Rose, and Mr. Rodriguez, correct me if I'm wrong, I think CISD's policy services is being contacted for this. And so I imagine there's going to be some sort of model policy based on what maybe other districts are doing. But we're happy to review to make sure that there's not an overlap, I think, of responsibilities.
And I think we need to look at what does the role entail specifically, because, we're by law specifically only allowed to do this or that. I think we need to precisely say what our role is, what the role will entail, and what is the length term of office. I'm sure Tasby will come up with it. But I think I really like the involvement of how this has come forward.
And we're not reinventing the wheel. There's other districts
Yes.
that already have this, so we'll be able to, borrow from that and kind of adjust it to what our needs are. And so right, Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes, sir.
So, do we have a motion or do we need a
That was
motion?
just an update.
Do we need a motion? Okay.
All right, anything further? Questions for Mr. Rodriguez? Any comments? All right, good job, Mr. Rodriguez, that you were able to meet with our students on that. Appreciate that. Stephanie,
Item 6, consent agenda. Administration recommends approval as presented.
all right, all right, I have a motion. Do I hear a second? We have a motion and a second on agenda item 6.
I'm sorry, who?
I moved and Mr. Byron seconded.
Yes. Pull the board, please, Stephanie.
I would like to pull A3. And would you like me to tell you why?
Yes.
I'd like Mr. Rodriguez to abstain from page 121 if he indeed still works for Hellas Construction. We have a check for $158,485.87 on page 121 to that company. And I'd also like to make sure that he filled out any conflict of interest.
He's already done that in the past.
Okay.
You filed that right at the beginning.
Thank you.
When we hired him.
And with that, that's my only issue, just page 121 in our warrant list. $158,485.87.
All right, in my motion, we'll just separate that. If Mr. Byron's okay with that.
All right, so, and you can, on your vote, you can abstain from that, Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes,
Even
I
though
will.
you moved for the, even though you moved for it, right, Council?
I'm sorry, what's the
I
motion?
said, even though he moved on the motion to approve it, he can, when he votes, he can abstain from that item particularly when he votes.
I would rather there be a motion to approve the consent agenda, with the exception of the items that has been pulled. That way we can do it in 2 different motions. And you can take up, items 683 separately, at which time Mr. Rodriguez can sing.
Okay.
So I move to approve, Mr. President, Mr. Chair, the consent agenda as presented with the exception of item A.
Okay,
I'll second.
all right. We have a motion, before the board.
I'll withdraw my motion on that.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
We have, now just only one motion then before the board. Mr. Rodriguez and Mr. Payan will do his second on his motion. We now are in, Ms. Trump's motion, and seconded by Ms. Burrows to approve the consent agenda with the exception of the item, that's paid payable to Hellas. Any further discussion from the board? Hearing none. Stephanie?
Mr. Coronado?
Yes?
Mr. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mrs. Mendoza?
Yes.
Mr. Payan?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Ms. Searles?
Yes.
And Mrs. Chuck?
Yes.
Okay, motion passed.
All right, now we'll entertain a motion to approve the other item on the consent agenda. All right, do I hear a second? I'll second. All right, we have a motion and a second on this agenda item.
Board President, just a clarification on what agenda item is now.
It's the item, it's actually the item made available to Hellas Construction.
I have another comment.
Okay.
I contacted Mr. Carsey on this. The warrant list was, I believe I'm gonna say this correctly, if I'm not, if it was not accurate. There were duplications of different items in here.
Yes, good evening. After you contacted me, I contacted the finance department, and of course contacted technology. And what that was a check that was voided. So the original check is in there, and then the replacement check is in there, but what's missing is the voided check.
For each of those items that we had discussed, for one check?
Yes, that was a very large check for Bank of America.
Okay, so you feel that everything is good and,
Yes, it's a problem with the report, not with the payment.
okay, very good, thank you very much.
second, Stephanie?
Mr. Coronado,
Yes?
Mr. Hernandez,
Yes.
Mrs. Mendoza,
Yes.
Mr. Payan,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes, and I'll abstain. I'll abstain.
Ms. Searles,
Yes.
and Ms. Strauss.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Alright. Next agenda item.
Item 7, executive session to consult with attorney under 551.071, 551.072, and 551.074 of the Texas Government Code. Discussion with legal counsel regarding status of Rate 41 group intervention in Public Utilities Commission of Texas, PUC, proceeding PUC doc number 52195, SO88, doc number 473212606, application of El Paso Electric Company to change rates. And item discussion regarding administration's recommendation for Jose Damian school principal.
Alright.
The time is 8:43.
For the record, Mr. Hernandez, do you want to say anything?
Oh, no, I'll do that.
Okay,
Thank you, Stephanie.
alright.
His last day is tomorrow, Mr. Barbo's last day is tomorrow. Principal, the principal.
I have them on vacation with their gifts. When they're done, with the board members with gifts in their hands and like that.
I'll just let you.
I'll make some stuff.
Ready? Ready, guys? Okay, Stephanie, bring us back into open session, please.
The time is 9:13. We will resume.
All right, we're back in open session now. The board has concluded the executive session on item 7A and B. We're now on agenda item A. Stephanie.
A, new business. Discussion and possible action regarding administration's recommendation for Jose Damian school principal. Chair. Mr. Chair?
Ms. Strauss.
I do have a motion, and my motion is to approve administration recommendation for Ana Elise Lee for the position as the principal of Jose Damian Elementary School.
All right, we have a motion from Ms. Strauss and a second from Mr. Payan on this agenda item. Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, Stephanie, please pull the board.
Mr. Coronado?
Yes.
Mr. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mrs. Mendoza?
Yes.
Mr. Payan?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mrs. Searles?
Yes.
And Mrs. Strauss.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right.
Item 9, adjournment.
Adjournment by unanimous consent of the board. We're adjourned. Thank you, board.
It is 9:14.